Welcome to the 48th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. This is part 2 of our Spring 2018 First Impressions. We'll be continuing on with the second half of shows we watched this season, starting with shows that air on Thursdays. If you want to hear our thoughts on the shows that simulcast in the first half of the week, just go back and listen to part 1, which was episode 47. Also, at the end of this episode, we'll be deciding our top 10 anime that we're going to review throughout this whole season. And we have a slightly different formula this time around for coming up with those picks. So definitely stick around for that madness. By the way, I appeared on another anime podcast recently called the Red Leaf Retrocast. To take part in a discussion about the Mobile Police Patlabor franchise. Those guys are really fun to talk with, and they're from all over the world. One of them's from Norway, another one from Brazil and the United States. So go check those guys out. They're pretty interesting.
Yeah.
With all that said, Kat and Leo, are you ready to jump back in?
If you're going to do that, then I should probably say I just appeared on Andrew's Recovery of an Anime Junkie podcast. So if you want to check that out, you can as well. So
that is true.
I've appeared on nothing.
It'll happen, Leo.
Leo's like, I appeared in a movie theater to watch Infinity War.
I did do that today.
Which is a good decision, honestly. It's a good movie. All right, so let's jump in with Thursdays, and we're starting off with a doozy called Doreiku.
Okay, let's go.
Which High Dive has decided not to translate its real name, which is Slave District, or its alternate name, which is 23 Slaves and Me.
Okay, but if
I think they decided to leave that untranslated,
I feel like this is unfair,
understandable reasons, because it's kind of an offensive name.
You would have dinged them and been like, they have a thing on there called 23 Slaves and Me. Like, how dare they? But if they don't translate it, then everyone's like, how dare they not translate it because they're afraid? Like,
exactly. I get to hit them both ways. Exactly. You know how they win? You don't make this stupid show. That's how you win.
I really like this show.
I like the show too. So.
All right, so I'm gonna break down the first episode. So the whole setup is that in this world, you can enslave anyone you want using the power of an SCM, which is a dental retainer that you put in your mouth and in the mouth of your prospective slave. And by utilizing it, you can have nearly complete control over their actions, though there are some limits we'll get into later. The episode starts off with just like a little mini scenario of this. There's like 4 people around a table playing basically truth or dare, essentially. And the girls ask the guys, like, don't make us do any sexual stuff like kissing or anything. And then one guy just immediately goes, have sex with me.
After he won.
Yeah, after he won. And his slave girl agrees.
There you go.
Then the OP plays, basically. The OP is completely inappropriate for this show. It is like
I
upbeat,
did think that too.
light guitar music. And the fucking lyrics are like so dumb too. And it's just like, are you kidding me? Anyway, after the OP, we meet a.a, and she's a woman who kind of doesn't truly understand herself and is kind of looking for something in her life. Apparently what she's looking for is slaves. So her friend was just broken up with by her boyfriend.
No, you're being unfair. Okay. But whatever. Sure.
I know I'm being a little unfair to a.a. But yeah, her friend was broken up with by her boyfriend, right? Her boyfriend left her for another guy, so she's super upset about that. And a.a asks, can we go meet this ex-boyfriend of yours? And I'll let them have it, basically, is how she puts it. So they meet, and a.a asks Yuga, who is this girl's ex-boyfriend, to kiss his new boyfriend in front of them to prove that he really loves him and that he's not lying. Yuga refuses because he's like, I wouldn't do that sort of thing in public. a.a then grabs her friends by the face and kisses her full on the mouth to prove it's totally normal. So then Yuga asks a.a since you're such a smarty pants, look at this couple sitting nearby us and tell me what their relationship is. And the others are like, they look like maybe a couple, or I don't know, I guess maybe a dating setup or something. And a.a gives them one look and she's like, oh, they just met. And maybe they met online or something. She instantly knows. And later she explains that she could tell the girl had eaten her food really fast and she looked like she wanted to go home. So presumably she met this guy online and was meeting him for the first time and wasn't into how he looked or sounded or acted.
They bonded over horror stuff.
Yeah, they bonded over horror movies. online, and then they met in person. So everybody leaves that night, and we see a short scene of that guy who was the online guy, his hat off, in the back of the car, and the car is rocking. So he made things work somehow with that girl, which we'll get back to later. Yuga texts Aya to meet him in a boatyard because he's interested in her now. And that's where she explains how she knew those people's relationship. And Yuga introduces her to this idea of what an SCM work is and how it works. And then after that, we find out that the woman from that couple who met is named Lucy. And she was raped by that man in the back of the car that she met online that night. For this reason, she decides to buy an SCM to get revenge on him. She also hired a private investigator to find out what his real name was and like where she could find him. Because you can see she has like an investigator's report about this rapist. And so she finds him in his regular pachinko place. And she dresses like sexily to put him off guard.
Sexily?
she dresses like, she shows a lot of cleavage essentially, and acts like really slutty to put him off guard. And she's like, I want to play a little game with you. Whoever finishes with more pachinko balls wins. And so she says, if you win, I'll let you fuck me again. She says to her rapist. If she wins, he's like, what if I win? Or no, so like she's like, what if you win? She's like, oh, you can just pay me like 10,000 yen, which is basically nothing. It's like $100.
Yeah.
So he wonders to himself, is this slut just dying to get her hole stuffed?
You had a problem with this?
I mean, he's supposed to be an asshole. I don't know why you're
train
angry.
Of logic is kind of right, though.
Well, yeah, because like, if someone
no, I understand.
You'd be like, what the fuck is this? But he's kind of an idiot too. So like,
yeah.
Yeah.
However, she also asks him to wear a retainer while they play. This is her like long game. He doesn't know what the SCM is, and she just tells him like, oh, this will make the game a lot more fun. Look, I'm wearing one too. So she basically tricks him in the end. Like, she came to the pachinko parlor like way earlier that day and started playing pachinko way earlier and had already won like a ton of balls. So like he starts playing pachinko and he's doing really well. He's winning clearly. But then she's like, oh no, she has like one of the pachinko workers come over and say like, here's all of my pachinko balls. You lose, which is really dumb. It's not actually a game at that point. It's like, yeah, I won because I lied to you, basically, or I misled you.
Yeah, but it's all in the wordplay. She said, of all the balls that we win today.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. But it's not smart.
She tricked him. No, she tricked him.
But it's not
a simple
smart.
trick. The dude's an idiot.
It's a dumb thing. It does not satisfying to anyone. I'm glad she won because she is a victim here. But like,
well,
I don't know. Anyway,
I am glad she. Okay, so like she also does shitty things to him in the end too, right?
Which he deserves.
Yeah. Well, okay, he deserves to be punished for what he did, but like her torturing him makes her a fucked up person too.
She like, kind of goes on a power trip about it once she starts getting her revenge.
Everyone, when they do terrible things to other people, that is on them. Like, you can't say, oh, well, they did this, so then it's okay if I do this. Like, then the whole world goes to shit with that logic, right?
Agreed.
Like, everyone
this would have been more interesting.
Like,
I think this would have been way more interesting if she had gone to the police and the police had not believed her story or she could not prove that she was raped. And then she took out her vengeance like this.
Well, but that would have defeated
but the way that they set it up, it's like, oh, she just decided to like get her revenge immediately on him without ever trying to go to the cops. She was probably
too ashamed to go to the police. That'd be my...
Or maybe she believed that the police just wouldn't help her.
I truly think that a lot of this whole manga like that I've read and like the whole story is about like people are always the hero in their own story, and no matter what terrible things they're doing, they have a way of justifying it to themselves. Like in this episode, in the next episode, if you put yourself in the one person's point of view, you can like get really into it and be like, yeah, it serves them right, like I'm doing this for a reason and they deserve this. But then if you go on the other person's point of view and you put yourself in their mindset, you're like, this person is terrible, you know what I mean? So like,
yeah,
you can always say like, oh, I'm the one who's in the right in this situation. Like we all make.
I don't think you can say that with this anime because everybody almost everybody is a slave owner. Like, so the people who are owning slaves, I can't put myself in any sense that they are in the right.
For example, in the second part, like that girl gets scammed, right? So, and he scams her out of a shit ton of money and like really fucks her up, right? And so on the one hand, you're thinking, this guy has been playing with her for years. Like, it serves him right for being fucked over for it. That was terrible. It's almost like someone just stole like hundreds of thousands of dollars from her and like just broke her heart, you know? But on the other hand, if you go into his point of view, he's like, you know, this girl's terrible. She's like trapped me and like now I'm her, you know what I'm saying? So like you can go on both sides in either of these situations. And I'm not saying any of these people are good people, but I think what the anime is trying to say is that no one is really a good person. Like everyone does shitty things, especially when they have power. Right?
Yeah, it's going to explore the dark side of humanity. This is what it's going to be about, and it's going. That's why it's interesting.
Yeah, if you give
I don't think you're
power,
supposed to really relate. They become
with these
kind
of
ugly.
Yeah, that's the whole point of the anime.
I don't like anybody in this anime at all. Yeah, for sure. Like it's definitely like exploring like darker side of the society. But yeah, I'll finish off with what she does. So like. So when he realizes that he's lost, the SCM activates, right? And so she then like stares at him like creepily and tells him, "Welcome to the world of the slave," which is another fantastic line of dialogue. Yuga explains that goes back to Yuga's perspective. He explains that SCM duelers engage in any type of duel, and the loser's sense of obligation is amplified, making the slave, or making them the slave of the winner, essentially. So Yuga tells Aya that he wants her to be his insurance because he wants to test himself like Goku by dueling with other slave masters to see if he can be the Ash Ketchum of slaveholders and catch all of the slave Pokemon. Fuck this show. So he wants Aya to free him if he fucks up.
Like, she thinks like maybe he's not fucked up, because I think she sees him as someone who's very smart, and I think that she is also very smart, and she doesn't meet people who are on her level very much, and so she wants him to be a good person. She wants to, you know, like him. But the more she's with him as the story goes on, the more she's like, oh, maybe he is kind of fucked up, and maybe he is an asshole, and like, you know.
Well,
so
what makes him smart is he has an insurance plan. He's got it's like so much money stashed away, but he's just going to completely trust Aya to save him if he becomes somebody else's slave.
Is like you can see in his brain that he knows that like what he really wants is to own other people, but like he tries to trick himself and be like, but I'm not really interested in that, but like he kind of is. Like you can see.
Yeah, he says, I'm a little interested in this slave thing.
Yeah,
but
like
I think I just want to test myself.
He's a thrill seeker. This is what I'm getting from him.
Well, so, like, he is, but he's also kind of lying to himself a little bit too.
Yeah, he is.
He a little bit. You find that out a little bit more in episode 2, but.
The last scene of the episode is Lucy, who has enslaved her rapist now and is like sitting on him. He has like a gag ball in his mouth, and like she's reading the rules for SCMs. Like, so basically, you're not allowed to manipulate the emotions of your slave. It's just a stupid thing. You can't order your slave to do something that would lead to their death, and you can't order a slave to do something that is greater than their abilities to do.
Why do you think it's dumb not to be able to manipulate the emotions?
Because you're enslaving them, so who cares?
What they mean is like you can't look at your slave and be like, you love me now, and then they'll love you, because like that's not within the power of it. That's what it
doesn't matter, because they're your slave, so you're manipulating their entire life.
No. Okay, so then your slaves can't rebel against you. Because if you're like, you love me, they're not going to rebel against you at that point. They're just going to stay loyal to you the whole time.
I don't think that's the point of it at all. I think the point of it is like the SEM does not have the power in and of itself to make someone like have certain feelings. That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, because in episode 2, if crazy blonde Lolita had told Seiya to love her, he never would have done that plot to get out of it. If you guys want to get into episode 2.
Yeah, we can go into episode 2. Like, basically, it ends with like her making her rapist punch himself in the face, and then she cackles evilly because now she's the villain, even though she's a rape victim. So yeah, let's go into episode 2, where I'm sure it gets much better.
God damn you, Bcom. So we're introduced to this new couple, Minami and Seiya. And really, Seiya he's a host. And Minami is always going to this host club. She's like working all these crazy jobs and just giving him all her money because she's just basically infatuated with him. But Seiya gets it in his head, like he's just tired of this chick. He just wants her to leave him the fuck alone. So she gets one of these SCMs, is that right? Yes.
Yeah.
SCMs, and he's like, let's just do a simple paper, rock, scissors game. You throw this, I throw this, and we'll, he wants to see what will happen. Well, then she doesn't throw what she was supposed to, and then he becomes her slave. And the dude's like, oh, fuck so me.
Like he kind of is like, ooh, it'll be so fun. Like we'll pretend, and like then you'll purposely lose. It's just a game.
Yeah.
But really, like he wants her to purposely lose. So that
she had already heard. Yeah. She had already heard rumors about it and whatnot. So then basically before that scene ends, it just takes a chapter from Inuyashiki, and she makes him eat her out right there. And I was like, damn, girl. Okay. It's fucking crazy shit.
I do admit, like, there's that point where she's like, basically, I've been a prostitute to make money for you, and like, I've worked hard, so like, yeah. I mean,
yeah. So
yeah, it was
it's just super fucked up.
It is fucked up.
Then she makes Seiya break up with like his girlfriend, which we'll come back to at the very end, and she moves in with him and makes him throw out all her shit. But at the same time, Aya and Yuga have know of a map that allows them to track other SCM users. And they have tracked down these two people, and they go into the host club and they challenge them to a game of thumbs up, which is, you guess, you just go in a circle. I don't know. It's whatever. Anyways, they do end up winning, and they get the other two under their control. And this is where Yuga doesn't release him. He just keeps him, tells them to go back to their modern day lives. It's also where Seiya actually kind of set that match up to lose, because he felt like being under somebody else's control would be way better than being under Minami's. And also Aya didn't have a SCM in her mouth, so if they lost anyways, then she could have still had a second chance to save Yuga with the money from the bank account. And also Minami asked Seiya, why did you want to control me? And that's when he's just like, I just want you to fucking leave me alone. You're driving me crazy. Just crazy shit like that. She's basically stalking the dude. So he that doesn't really, I think he did say he was just going to like make her give him some money or something like that, right?
Yeah. So that like, but the thing
bad
is,
as he got.
You do see it from his point of view, where like she's creepy and like she's too much for him, but also like he could always just quit being a host and like taking all of her money, and then he could have avoided this whole thing.
I mean,
right?
it's his job. Like, it's not. Well, I
know,
not that
but I'm
easy.
just saying, like, if he really felt that way, he could have just been like, "Listen, I don't want you to be my." Like, I mean, it's not the correct thing is not to be like, well, now I'm just gonna make you my slave so that like you'll keep giving me money and like
he just flat out wanted her to leave her alone, so it doesn't really so much make him a bad guy. But then once Yuga tells him to just go back to their everyday lives for now, at the very end, Seiya's on a rooftop, and his old girlfriend Julia shows up, but she seems to be under some other guy's control now for whatever reason, and that's basically how that episode ends.
The Julia thing gets way more fucked up later.
Oh yeah,
on.
I mean, all they got was the introduction right then and there. But man, I couldn't be more in opposition to Bcom on this anime. This shit is awesome. Yeah, I want to see this dark side fucked up society.
It's a psychological show. It's all about the psychology.
I love psychological shows. I want to see what level people will go to just to one up the other person. That's what I want to see. There's also, I found this quote, because I guess you can agree with this since you've read it, but I found this online. So actually, Yuga was way smarter than they make him appear. Originally, I signaled him with her foot on how many thumbs she was going to hold up, and in the end, I lost, but since she wasn't wearing a CSM, she can't lose. She wasn't really part of the game to begin with, which makes Ayaka the loser. I don't see why they would change that, since it actually shows how smart Yuga really is, but well, maybe they considered it too complex for the anime.
Yeah, I
don't really understand what this quote is saying.
There's some parts of the anime that are really complicated.
Yuga is not being shown as smart as he actually is.
Yeah, like that's why
that.
Aya is so attracted to him, because like Aya is a very smart person, and Yuga is also a very smart person.
I just found it weird that the anime did leave out that they had signals under the table by tapping each other's foots, and they just left that out. And I was like,
I think
that would
they
have been
just
cool.
Considered it like too much, because there are a lot of the games later on too that. Like when you're reading it, it's even complicated when you're reading it. And you're like, wait, what? And you have to like read it 3 times. So I imagine they're going to simplify it a little bit.
Honestly,
sometimes.
No matter what signals they had, when it came down to a one-on-one between the 2 girls, it didn't matter anymore. So who cares?
Yeah, it would have been just a flip of a coin at that point.
And even like if you have signals, all it does is give you a better probability. It doesn't actually like mean like, oh, I will win. It just it's like better probability chances. That's all.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But still being a smarter person.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were doing the same thing, the other people. So
you just hate it with the pat. Like, listen to this. Listen to the tone of his
voice.
It's
I just don't want to watch a show that's like, hey, slavery is really cool. Let's explore that.
I don't. That is not what it's saying.
That is exactly what this is. Slavery is really fun, and it has lots of shock value because we can have lots of sex slaves in every episode.
Slavery is really fucked up. That's what it's saying.
I would love for the show to make that clear.
People always think this way because they are fucked up. That's what it's saying. People are always fucked up when you give them power. It's innate in the human consciousness. This is what we do. This is what people do. That's what the anime is saying, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose maybe at some point it will say that. I didn't see that in the first 2 episodes, but like I did see a lot of shock value bullshit in the first 2 episodes and a lot of sex, slavery, and rape. I'm just not like interested in those themes necessarily when they're not handled carefully.
Damn.
Oh gosh.
He's just determined to just make us seem like little bitches.
Oh, I don't want to like. I'm not casting aspersions on you necessarily. It's hard for me to understand why you like this so much. But you have both read the manga, which gives you a different perspective. Oh, I thought you read the manga too. You read the manga for everything, so.
Like I said, I like it because it's all about how every person, if you give them enough power, they'll abuse bad things. They will abuse it. And like how
I disagree with that fundamentally.
No matter how much
like I know that power corrupts, but I don't think like every person given power would like build an army of slave Pokemon.
No, but the whole point is like no matter how much you think you are a good person and you think that you would be a great leader and like you would never abuse your power and you would always be good in any situation, like people become fucked up when they're in certain situations. They just do. And like no one is as good of a person as they think they are, but they justify it in their own head. And from their point of view, they're always going to be the hero, right?
And it's psychological, so just expect your shock value. So
yeah, I mean, it is an edge show too, and
it's not even the edgiest show that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah,
so honestly,
I'm not going to lie, I love edge shows, so this is a little of both for me.
True.
All right, we need to move on.
Yeah, let's move on to something that is completely fucking different. And that is Tada-kun Doesn't Fall in Love, which is a rom-com anime from the director of Monthly Girls Nozaki-kun, which sounds fantastic to me. This director really knows how to make a compelling like ensemble of rom-com characters. I really loved this first episode way more than I thought I would from like the previews going in. And like, while like I felt the chemistry between the 2 main characters, which is like a blonde named Teresa, who is like visiting from a foreign country that's kind of like Switzerland, but it's called something else. It's kind of like Luxembourg, but it's called something else. Sorry. To Japan, and like the main guy who is like a photography student or a photography club member in his high school, but really into Nikon cameras and photography. The chemistry between them isn't like quite there yet because he's like really laid back, kind of like Nozaki from Nozaki-kun, and she's very bubbly, but they don't really mesh well yet. However, the second that like that redhead girl, Alexandra Magritte, who is with Teresa on this journey, the second she appeared on screen, I like basically like yelled at my computer screen, "Best girl!" Because she is so best.
I kind of like Hinako.
Oh
yeah,
my gosh.
basically. Well, she's gorgeous, and I love her frustrated attitude at like trying to rein in Teresa's like bubbly nature.
Well, Teresa's just like a Japanophile. That's really the problem with Teresa. She just like she's just like, ooh, Japan, anything Japan, yes. And I'm like, God damn.
What's that? The samurai show, whatever it was.
Oh,
yeah, the samurai show that she's
like
infatuated with, and she thinks like everything in Japan is like this samurai show that she's seen, and she views like everything that around her through it.
Aren't they referencing that show that was really popular, that there was like an anime recently that they did, but it's originally a live action? It was
Possibly,
on Amazon Prime. You remember?
Oh, really? Like Onihei or something?
Yes.
Or like...
Isn't that what they're talking about? Onihei? Isn't that basically what the show is that they're referencing?
I don't know. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, I love the cats in this anime. There's one big fat cat who is in the cafe that, what's his name? Wait, what is the main character's name in this? Not Teresa, but the guy.
Oh,
Tada-kun? You mean the guy whose name is in the title?
Thank you. Well, yeah, but like that's his last name, so I was trying to remember his first name.
Mitsuyoshi.
Okay, yeah. In Mitsuyoshi's like cafe that his family owns, they have this big fat cat named Nyanko Big, who is really charismatic and he makes really funny faces and he has a big poof of hair on his head. There's also like a female cat that Teresa meets out on her journey, like when it starts raining under a little awning, and like both of these cats are adorable. I can tell they're gonna like provide a lot of fun.
Good God.
Also, when they get back to the cafe, there's this blonde character named Kaoru, who is like brilliantly voiced by Mamoru Miyano. Miyano makes some noises like when he's being like attacked by Alex,
and we all know how much Bcom loves like noises.
He does.
Noises from men too, apparently. I'm equal opportunity. Like his vocal range is just ridiculous. Like he just sells this character so hard.
I found it a little annoying in the third episode. This character himself. Yeah.
Huh.
See, I did not like the first episode of this at all. I was bored. I was like, what in the world? And then I watched the second episode, and that's where it actually starts to get decent. But like the first episode is not that great. So I like
the first episode a lot because it introduced very interesting characters. But yeah, I agree with you. Like the second episode has more plot and you understand like what they're going for more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wasn't even going to watch the show, but Bcom, you said I should at least check it out.
Yeah, but definitely at least watch 2 episodes.
It's really well animated. Yeah. The background art is really sharp, really well done. It's one of the better looking shows this season, I would say, just overall. And yeah, I just like the whole cast of characters like works together really well. They really gel well together.
Mm-hmm.
I love when Marguerite, like she's making her breakfast, Teresa breakfast, like she's making a traditional Japanese breakfast, but she has like a gas mask on because she can't stand the smell of like the natto and the miso.
Yeah. It's so good.
I also really liked the camera competition they did in the second episode. That was really
fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. The one thing I will say is this anime is going to be interesting, but it's already like a little unbelievable to me because they've got like a princess from a European country, which is, I mean, they're kind of hinting at it already, right?
Right. Like it's pretty obvious.
Well, I told Bcom in the first episode the amount of coincidences in that first episode is just mind-blowing.
Yeah.
There's no way that would ever happen.
So like they have a princess from a European country and a gravure model like in the same group of friends. And I'm just like,
I would like to this is where I would like to argue Hinako is best girl because she's got the glasses and braids and the banging body to go with it. Brains and the body.
She's pretty great.
Just make her perfect, okay? Thanks.
Yeah, and then like the other member of their group club is like this otaku guy who is like in love with this gravure model, but he doesn't know it's her.
Yeah. But I'm just like, that's some bullshit that only happens in a ridiculous anime, but it is entertaining.
Yeah.
So
yes,
it's still a really good show.
Yes, I'm really enjoying this. I also like that his little sister, the Emoto, is not like an anime Emoto. She's just like feels like her own character, and I appreciate that since we've seen so many stupid Emoto stereotypes in anime in the past few years. So
she's in love with what's his face, his buddy, right? Kaoru?
Oh, yes, Kaoru, I believe, the blonde guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of fun dynamics going on here. I think this show has a lot of potential, and it's way more interesting than I thought it would be from the very like stilted and stiff like preview that we saw before the season. So yeah. You guys want to take the next one?
I don't know anything about it. Must be Kat.
Okay, yeah, it's me. So I watched Dances with Dragon for y'all, so you didn't have to watch it.
Thanks.
No, I'm talking to the listeners too. So like this show is about these two dudes. One who's like this. Okay, so he looks like, you know how like that stereotypical elf character that has like the long white hair and like a pretty face with like tattoos on it.
Yes.
But then it's like they spliced it, like they cut the head off of this elf and they put it on this like giantly beefy dude, right? And so his head does not match his body at all. And every time I look at him, I'm just like, you're wrong. You're wrong somehow. Like, it doesn't match. Like, I can't. So it's him and his partner, Gaius, and they live in this like city. And it seems like there's dragons who I think they can turn into people. There's like, and then there's regular people, and there's like several sort of like cultural races who live in the same city. Mm-hmm. And they own like a business together where they basically go fight monsters, and sometimes they're bodyguards from the first few episodes. It seems to be a story where there's like a lot of political intrigue and stuff. Like there's a lot of like religious stuff and political stuff. But like, okay, the thing is, this show has so much going on and it's so muddled, and they don't give you enough explanation of everything that you can't even follow it, and you don't understand exactly what's going on a lot. Like, I think this could have been a good show if they'd cut some of the elements out, because frankly there's just too fucking much here, and then they just focused on a few of them and they explained everything more. But like the way it is now, you can't follow it, and so it's just useless.
I totally agree. I watched the first episode of this and I was just like, this is too much for me.
Yeah, it's just, you can't follow it. So it's like, it's a shame. I'm almost wondering if this is a manga, and if the manga did really well.
It's a light novel, which explains a lot, I feel.
Okay.
Yep.
Because I feel like maybe the source material is not terrible, but like they just can't make it into an anime because there's too much or something. I don't know. But yeah, it's not adapted well. Also, one of the main guys, the redhead, has like a girlfriend, and the amount of times that they fucked in the first 2 episodes, I'm like, okay, we get it. Like, you have a girlfriend and you guys fuck. Like, you don't have to show them like that they're fucking like 3 times every episode. Like, we know. Okay? Like, we saw the first few times.
Can I just say, like, okay, the 2 main characters' names? So the redhead guy's name, his name is Gaius Lavina Sorel.
Oh, and then the other one's like Ashley.
The other guy's name is literally Gigina Jerde Dolk Melios Ashley Buff. It's just like, calm the fuck down.
Also, the one dude, also Ashley is like part of some weird ancient culture, and he just like looks down on his partner all the time, and I'm just like, you're a fucking asshole. Like,
and you guys are right. There's way too much going on with this show.
Yeah, no, it's chaos.
God,
it's absolute chaos. There's a reason it has a 5, and it's kind of a shame, because like it really could have been something if they'd handled it better, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. It's just that they just didn't. This is like one of those failed adaptations where I feel like probably the source material is decent, but they just fucked it up when they were trying to turn it into an anime.
Yeah, I actually thought like some of the animation during the fight scenes was pretty decent too. Like, so like they didn't necessarily screw that part of it up. It's just like the muddled story, which they're probably trying to put like so much of the light novel backstory into one episode as they possibly can, because they only have 12 episodes to adapt this. So
if they were really serious about adapting it, they probably should have made it like 26 episodes or something, because it seems like it's got that much story.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have another show about dragons we can talk about.
This one's much better.
It's called Dragon Pilot, or Hisone to Masotan, which is actually another
show.
It's another Netflix show, but this one is actually being fan subbed by a really reliable fan subber. So we've been watching it. So Dragon Pilot is set in a Japan where dragons have existed for centuries, but have had to be disguised and hidden in plain sight by like various organizations throughout the course of history. And at this moment in time, that responsibility is left up to the JSDF, the Japan Defense Force.
So first, why the fuck doesn't make any sense? You have to admit this doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely not.
It makes no sense. Like, okay, if you had a choice between a drone, right? Like a drone that you could pilot remotely and it would like kick the shit and shoot anything that you wanted it to shoot, and a dragon, which you have to get inside apparently, and like sit there in its digestive tract, and it doesn't listen to you. Which one are you gonna pick? I know which one I'm gonna pick.
I think I understand where they're coming from.
Watched anime before.
This makes no sense why they would still be using these dragons. If this actually happened, if there were actually dragons, they were hiding them, they'd be like, well, we don't need them anymore. I guess we're just gonna keep them in a zoo or something. That's what would have happened.
But think about how cool they are.
No,
I guarantee you that's what like the Japanese like defense force was thinking, like, oh, this dragon's really fucking cool.
Well, I will say that you can watch in the animation that it is outperforming the jets. So it does have that advantage.
It does. It's a super jet.
It's bullshit. Also, how the fuck is she controlling the dragon from inside its digestive tract? That makes no sense at all.
You press on different organs and stuff.
No.
They've been talking about this in the second episode.
That makes absolutely no sense at all.
Oh, no, it totally makes total sense. Total sense.
Total bullshit. Total bullshit.
So basically, they strap F-15J parts, right, to this dragon, and then like they load a pilot in with like a helmet that has like a HUD and like all these controls, and like when they're flying in the dragon and like they activate the HUD, they can actually see like all of the outside, like everything around them, like it's like a see-through thing because they probably have like cameras on the outside of the jet armor.
Yeah.
But yeah, like. We were going to say one more thing, Kat, and I can get into like the protagonist and everything.
Also, why the fuck does a dragon need a pilot to fly? Like, I'm pretty sure if it's an animal, it can do whatever the fuck it wants without someone in its stomach. It doesn't need anyone in its stomach to go fly. But
well, it needs the pilot to be told specifically what to do.
Well, but like it can fly on its own. They could probably
fly, but it won't necessarily
area.
do what you want it to do. Like,
well, they could probably find a remote area and like let it fly. Like, because they're like, oh, we never let it out because we don't have a pilot for it, so it's just dying. And I'm just like, that's dumb. Like, that's bullshit.
Well, you see, I know this woman who's really into maids who lives in Japan. She's a programmer, and she's taken in this one dragon already, actually, and another one. I think they're maid dragons. Like, so I guess that's another option they could have gone with. Hide them in plain sight. The dragon could have gone to school.
With these sort of shows, I can like accept it and like move on and just like let my suspension of disbelief take over. But for this one, I just can't. It just angers me.
So what I really like about the show is the down-to-earth-ish part, which is with the protagonist, who is this girl named Hisone Amakasu, who gets roped into becoming a prospective pilot for this dragon aircraft. Like, they show her graduating from high school and filling out her career path survey saying, like, I want to join the Japan Self-Defense Force. Because, like, she doesn't really know what to do with her life, but she thinks, like, she can find something there that she can be good at. And like as soon as she gets in, she gets basically reassigned to this sketchy Air Force base, and she wanders into an empty hangar there looking for anybody. And the dragon like rises up out of its like cooling tank, and it just like eats her, and then it pukes her back out. And she wakes up in like a hospital room, and like people are telling her what happened. Like they're like, oh, this dragon, the OTF, the Organic Transforming Flyer, has chosen you to be this pilot. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? As well, also as the show goes on, she meets like this other like rival pilot trainee. Her name is Nao Kaizaki, who is brilliantly voiced by Tomoya Kurosawa as like this extreme brat who's really angry that Hisone has shown up and like taken her spot as like the one pilot. And despite Nao's young appearance, both of them have pretty young appearance. They're supposedly in their like late teens or like 20s or something. Hisone is an outspoken woman who often gets herself into trouble by saying what's on her mind without really thinking first. My favorite part of the first episode is when she's like confronting this dragon. She's in this hangar and like everybody's been pushing her like ever since she got out of the hospital room and everything. And like she finally like loses it on like one of the commander and officers. And she's like, I tried to tell you 15 separate times that I didn't want any part of this bullshit, but you guys wouldn't listen to me. And then she like looks at Now, who's been like pestering her, and calls her like an elementary school brat. And like she basically just puts her foot down and like tries to make it clear that like she needs her space. It also
shows a side of her where like she's always kind of been quiet and stuff like this, but she's like that because when she does what's normal for her is speaking her mind like she is now. So that's kind of like when the gimmick the show has.
I do like her personality. It's kind of like a Gap Moe or something. Like she's this timid person, but then like if she actually speaks, she just says everything that she thinks.
Yep.
Exactly.
Cute.
She can't control it.
Yeah.
After that big blow up, she goes and like calls her mom, and like her mom like encourages her basically and sends her a message saying like, you can always come home if you want to, but you should try to do what you can while you're there. And like she goes back to the hangar alone that night and asks like the dragon like, why did you choose me? And she kind of has like a bonding moment with him. She reaches out her finger and says like, E.T. like pretending to be like from E.T. To like make contact with it, and he eats her again, and then they bust out of the hangar and he flies with her for the first time. And it's like a really bumpy flight, but like Hisone still feels like she's found something that maybe only she can do. Just in general, I thought like the CG animation of the jets was extremely well done. Studio Bones is doing this, and I really liked that part, and I really like the weird character designs in this that are very simplistic in some ways, but they allow for really, really expressive facial animations on the characters and just like general like hilarious like animation. So I find myself just like grinning and smiling at the show more often than not. Any other thoughts on the first episode before I dive into episode 2?
I was kind of bored with the first episode. I didn't really care for it, and honestly their simplistic designs to me almost felt lazy. I thought that they were just so simple.
Like the animation.
I was like, Bones, I know you can do way better than this.
Yeah, it's so
I don't know, like I guess I can see that. I don't know, I really liked this style.
It's like it's like if they took the way they animated Boruto and just made it like even more simple. Like way more simple. And I'm just like, like, you know, it's not for me.
The second episode had warning flags for me specifically. This guy enters the picture who is the dragon pilot suit designer. He is an incredibly pervy douchebag, and he like as soon as he sees Hisone, he like starts sizing up her body and like touching her against her will.
He's brothers with the trainer from Pretty Derby.
Basically, yes, these are the same guy essentially. Now, on the other hand, is like completely smitten with this guy, like, and is like trying to get his like attention all the time, and she becomes extremely jealous that he is now focusing his attention on Hisone since she's the new pilot recruit. Otherwise, the episode's like pretty interesting. Like Now basically tries to run away from the academy or the military base because she's fed up with Hisone because like Hisone is like oblivious to how much Now hates and is jealous of her and keeps trying to be nice to her and doesn't understand like that Now is just really pissed.
Yeah. Crazy misunderstandings.
And this ends up in a scene where like Hisone's talking to like the dragon in the hangar, and Now overhears her like talking about like she's asking the dragon like, you should let Now pilot you too, like she's just as good, like and it's not like that special of a thing to pilot you basically. And the dragon then gets pissed off that like Hisone wants him to like cheat on her with this other girl pilot. He's like, oh, it's not that special, then like I'll turn my back on you. But Hisone figures this out, makes it up to the dragon, and they fly off, and they are able to track down Now. The dragon literally just like opens up his like F-15 like nose and like sniffs the air and is able to like smell where Now is, and they go track her down and bring her back. But yeah, that's about it for the second episode.
One of my big problems with the second episode was Now did nothing but throw a fit the entire fucking time and got her way in the end. What the fuck?
Is this some sort of fetish? Like girls who just throw fits? Like 5-year-old children? Is that what this
probably.
is supposed to
It's
be?
probably a thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
like,
was just like, that's a terrible thing to like, sometimes, an episode teaches you something, but like, oh, so if you just keep being a total asshole and throwing a fit, you're going to get your way in the end anyways? It's not how it works, but whatever.
That's the only reason I could think of why they were having her throw fits constantly. It's supposed to be like some cute thing. But it's not really cute. Yeah.
Well, it was also supposed to like expose how oblivious Hisone was, because like now it just wants to have this like fight with Hisone. Basically, she wants her to understand like I don't like you, and you're like stepping into my territory, and I don't like that. And Hisone is just completely oblivious about it, which just makes now angrier and angrier and angrier until she finally just blows up.
It is kind of funny in that episode. I did enjoy episode 2 a lot more because of that. But
yeah. One of my main criticisms of the show is like I have no idea where they're going with it at this point. Still, like I like the initial setup, I like the goofiness of it, but I have no idea what the overall arcing storyline is going to be.
Looks like there's still 3 other pilots they haven't introduced yet. So
yeah, that's true too. So it'll be interesting, like if they are Dragon pilots as well, or if they just pilot like F-15s. They're part of like the Air Force or what. So.
If you look at the poster, there's like another 2 dragons in the background. So
I'm glad you guys are enjoying this. I just cannot. Like the suspension of disbelief for me. Just I can't watch this without getting angry. Just like this is dumb.
Cat's like dragon fighter jets? Hell no. That's totally unbelievable.
Every time I'm watching this, I'm just like, this is dumb. I hate this. Just get all angry.
Well, that's fine. You know where you can channel that anger, Cat? Into punching the fuck out of somebody's face. In this next anime, Megalo Box.
So do we really need to say anything, but you should just be watching this because it does everything fucking amazing?
If you haven't watched the first few episodes of this, you need to watch this.
I mean, I'm not really big on picking up on like the soundtracks and stuff, but man, the soundtrack in Megalo Box just keeps hitting me, and I told Bcom like 5 times, I'm like, this track is fire as hell.
Is it the second episode where they have like a kid like listening to a song that's like a Japanese rap song?
That's a young junkyard. I mean, junk dog. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, this anime like really evokes like the soundtracks of like Samurai Champloo and Cowboy Bebop, and I think it really evokes the aesthetic of those shows in a lot of ways. Like Junk Dog looks a lot like Spike from Cowboy Bebop. It's very
gritty. It's a gritty anime.
The gritty art style, like the grittiness of the material is very similar to Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, the character designs look, I mean, like you can put them side by side and they look the same. They're using the exact same art style. It's awesome. It's just an updated version.
Those mid-episode cards that are all black with like white text in like a fancy like font are very similar to the ones in like Cowboy Bebop and Samurai Champloo as well. Like it just looks like they're very like heavily trying to target fans of those shows, which for me is working extremely well because I love those shows. Because otherwise it's a fairly straightforward boxing story. Like, you know, down on his luck boxer takes dives to pay the rent basically. But he wants to be more than that. He has the ambition to be more than just a guy who takes dives. And so he hears about this tournament called Megalonia, which sends out a call to boxers from all over the world to participate to become the best Megalo boxer. And the difference between Megalo boxing and normal boxing is you wear like an exoskeleton on your arms and shoulders and back that makes your punches even more powerful than normal punches. Which could really fuck you up.
All these scars all over his like cheeks and head and shit, because like when he punches and it's got like the extra weight, like when you get hit, like it'll actually scar you more than a normal punch would.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, yeah. These would like basically just shatter your skull.
Yeah.
If it was real.
Yeah, this is extremely like you're not coming back from this sport without severe head damage. Like you're not surviving this sport basically. I think one of the underlying themes I find is really interesting is that so he can't initially get into the tournament because he's not a citizen of the country or the city or whatever that he's lives on the outskirts of.
And like the poor district, it looks like.
Yeah, so there's like some like sociological concerns with this anime of like the uprising of like the poor and like the have-nots.
People who are in that sort of weird, like not legal, like state, that gray area. Like, is that common in Japan? Because it's common in the U.S. with like Hispanic population, but I don't think I've heard anything about this. I'm kind of curious where they're getting that. It's an interesting thing they added to the story.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, I honestly love everything about this show. Like, there's a really hype scene at the end of episode 2 where he has to decide what his name is going to be. I think it's the end of episode 2. It might be episode 3. I'm not sure. Don't quote me. And he chooses the name Joe because, you know, this is an homage to Ashita no Joe at the same time. That was pretty just awesome.
Yeah, no, in the first episode, he kind of like meets Yuri, like he's like driving home from that fight, right? And he's like so angry. Mm-hmm. Remember? And like he just he almost runs into that bitch because she's like in the middle of the road. And then they start to fight, and then like he just goes home. And then in the second episode, like Yuri comes to the like Junk Dog's ring basically and is like, well, I'm gonna fight you now because like my honor, which is dumb, but whatever.
Yeah. And like Yuri just reminds me of like Ivan Drago from Rocky IV, like the Russian guy who's like impossible to beat and trains with the best equipment, whereas Junk Dog is like the Sylvester Stallone in that movie, like training without like super special equipment, like going to the mountains of Russia to train on his own.
Yeah,
it's totally like that.
There's a lot of shots in this anime that are just so good that you're like, oh damn. Like there's a shot in the rain when they're about to fight, but then they don't, where everything like pauses and you're like, fuck. Or there's that shot in the first episode where like he's walking down the steps to go fight in one of his fights, and like he's dragging his hand on the wall, and the wall is just covered in like
with dried blood.
Yeah.
And you're like, ooh. And this,
also when like they punch and like they kind of block it or whatnot, those scenes are super awesome too because they slow those down. They throw in all the special effects with the sparks and stuff. Those are some of my favorite.
Yeah, and then also like so in the second episode when they're fighting, like Yuri, they do exchange blows for a while, and then Yuri like punches him, like, and then you just see this like blood just like welling on Junk Dog's cheek, and it's just like, damn, that's a good shot. Yeah, there's some really good action scenes and like really good shots that you're just like hit you. So yeah, basically like they fight for a while. At one point, it kind of looks like Junk Dog might like have a chance, but not really. And then he just gets like clobbered, basically, just like fucked all to hell. And then as Yuri's walking away, he like comes up again and he's like, come back, like fight me some more. And like obviously if he fights him anymore, he's gonna die at this point, but he still wants to. And but yeah, no, and Yuri's just like, if you want to fight me again, like you gotta come fight in my ring. And you can tell it just really infuriates him because like he can't, because he's like not a citizen, so he can't enter that tournament. And I feel like there's a lot of just anger and like pent up anger in Junk Dog at this point. Like, and so he's making dumb decisions, like because he's just frustrated with everything. And so like the next fight that he is supposed to throw, he doesn't throw it, right? And so then they get pulled into that back room. I really liked that scene. That was awesome. Like, they get taken in front of this mob boss. Well, his manager does. And like the mob boss is in this kitchen area, and he's like just stirring this pot, and you just hear someone in the freezer who's been like tied up and his mouth is taped, and he's just like, and you're like, oh fuck, what is this? And he starts talking about how if you like boil down game, you can make like a certain amount of like soup stock per like pound of game. And then he's like, how much do you weigh? And you're like, fuck. And then he like takes like the soup off the stove and like serves him some of it. And then you're looking at it and you're like looking at the freezer where there's like people tied up in the freezer, and you're like, fuck. Like, what is this? And he's like, eat it. And like makes the manager eat it. And I'm just like, what did he just eat?
Yeah, but this scene also serves the purpose so that the manager can try to make Junk Dog an actual citizen, so he can participate in it because Junk Dog like asks him for this favor for like the third time or something like that.
So yeah, I do think
and
that
that's where.
So do you think that the manager has his best interest at heart, or do you not? Because like there's some interesting thoughts on that.
In the beginning, I don't, but like the manager is definitely out like for himself. He wants to protect himself, especially now, and he thinks this is the only way. I think the manager has like some morals, and like I think he does care about Joe in the end. But he also will look out for himself first, I think. I
agree with that. Like, because there's some points where you can tell he does care about Joe, and like he does things to protect him, but he also is profiting off of him at the same time. Like, it's an interesting dynamic. But yeah, so like basically they convince the mob boss, like, we'll pay you back by winning the Megalo Box tournament, and like you need to make him a fake ID so that he can enter. And like that's when the second episode ends, kind of. But yeah, there's some intense scenes even in these first 2 episodes, and I really wish it was longer. Like, I know this was only 12 episodes. I wish it was longer. I'm like, I want more. Give me more.
God, yeah, I would definitely watch more of this. I mean, it depends how they wrap things up and how quickly it goes, but I would watch like 50 episodes of this. So anyway, go watch Megalo Box. It's great.
And then don't go watch Comic Girls.
Okay, it's not the worst anime of the season, though.
It's not the worst anime of the season.
It's really
but
not.
I do have some problems with it. And oh man, I got like killed on that preview episode, if you remember, by Brains and Kat and Leo for thinking this anime might be decent.
Even had a chance. We were like, what?
And it turned out, in my opinion, that they were right, because this show really pissed me off. So over the past few years, because of the podcast and because of just being part of the anime community, I've watched like the first couple episodes of a lot of cute girls doing cute things shows. And a lot of those shows immediately turn out to be something I don't like, which is cute underage girls doing inappropriately sexual things shows. And like that's definitely a genre to itself, because like there are cute girls doing cute things shows that don't do that, like say like K-On! Or like No No Biori or something.
Interviews with Monster Girls to some extent. I don't like that scene when he was in between her legs. That's arguable.
But they don't do anything. Like, you have to admit, he's not interested in any of those girls.
No, not in the end, though they are interested in him.
Well, but like,
which makes sense.
They do. I mean, haven't you had a crush on like your
really super cool teacher?
Come on, yes. Totally believable.
I think that's fine.
But it's not like Arrow Manga Sensei or something like ridiculous. But this show follows in the tradition of shows like New Game, Slow Start, Hinako Note, and like Urara Meirocho, where much of the setup of like the first episode is jokes about how one or several of the main characters look underaged, even though they're technically not. Like, technically Kaos is a high schooler.
As Slow Start, it's about on the same level as New Game, which like a lot of people like. Sure. And I watched all of New Game. Like, it's not a bad show. It's just you have to go into it knowing what it is, right? Like, if you like that sort of shit, then you'll like this.
But if you're turned off by fan service, you're not going to like New Game at all, especially fan service of young girls. Because like there's a scene in New Game where Alba gets undressed for the camera in a bathroom stall, which I hated.
Well, yeah, there's a few New Game is very similar to the show in a lot of ways, where New Game has some inappropriate shots like that. This one has like a whole, isn't it like 10 minutes where her shirt is just off and she's just in her bra?
Yep.
Yeah.
But like,
and then in like a later episode, she's just posing
the show
in
is
her
not
underwear.
Hopeless. Like, it is entertaining. If you watch it, it's not like you hate it, you know? So good and bad.
Yeah. I think you can appreciate the fact that like this show is about like young aspiring manga artists who are frustrated with like their various like insecurities about the manga that they draw, whether it's like Kaos, who is like, I need to just learn how to draw better. Like, she's looking at these like people around her who are drawing like so proficiently, and she's feeling really insecure about it. but of course she becomes like this blubbering, like shivering mess of like a baby, like at the drop of the hat, like constantly crying. I think she lost like a gallon of water through her tears in this first episode.
I do get
honestly.
really tired of her blubbering. I'm just like, shut your fucking mouth. Also, I find it really unbelievable that all of these high school people are all writing manga. Like, I'm sure there are high schoolers in Japan who are professionally writing manga, but like not to the extent that seems to be portrayed in anime, you know?
Yeah, and you also have like this young girl like writing an ecchi manga. Like one of the girls she has like a manager or whatever who tells her like, you draw really nice curves. I know you want to draw this like cutesy manga, but what if you drew porn instead? And so she becomes an ecchi manga artist because of that, and she's like really uncomfortable with it. I don't know. I was gonna get into this big rant about Japan's like manga industry and how like Rurouni Kenshin's author, like who just like got like a slap on the wrist for having real life child porn in his office, has now just gone straight back to work on Rurouni Kenshin with like barely an apology, really. Like, so if that's their real stance on this stuff, like how can we expect them to have a stance on like drawing of little cute naked girls? Like, it's just not going to happen. But like, it just feels really skeevy to me, and it just like confirms some things that I think about this industry behind the scenes. This show isn't like the worst example of it. Obviously, like there's Arrow Manga Sensei and there's Angels 3-Piece and stuff, but like I hate when that stuff is sneaking into these otherwise kind of fun, cute, interesting shows that if they didn't have this element to them, I would probably enjoy. So yeah, I'm sure this show is going to be praised for its good character animation by the end of it as well. But like, because of these themes, I just find it like literally unwatchable. And because it's repeating the same, like, I'm a high schooler, but I look like an elementary schooler jokes that I've seen in like 15 different anime in the past 5 years.
I do get really fucking tired of Kaos. I'm like, I just don't want to hear from her. Like, I like the blue-haired girl. That's like
blue-haired girl. The shonen girl's fun. Yeah, she's great.
She's fun.
Tsubasa.
Yeah, she's cool. But yeah, in the second, okay, so there are redeeming moments. Like I said, like in the second episode, they go to a comic supply store.
I liked that part.
And they show you like things about the comic supplies that I didn't really understand. Like you can buy like background tape, and that's how they like put in all those backgrounds and like shonen with the lightning bolts and stuff.
Yeah, the screen tone stuff. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and then like the differences between digital drawing versus normal, which I bet that is interesting in the industry right now, with like some people drawing digitally and some people still being like old school, and that was interesting. But then of course they juxtapose, they put that next to like, oh, and then they go to a sweet shop and now they're like feeding each other like pieces of ice cream.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you get interesting parts and then you get
so
it's
moe along with that stuff. I think the second episode had a better balance of all that stuff. Yeah, and I mean, like, I did like parts of it. Like I said, I really was interested in the comic store. I enjoy the blue-haired girl. There's also, I hate Kaos. There was a part in the second episode where Kaos literally like got nervous under her breath at like, having to introduce herself, so terrifying. And she just like mutters under her breath like moe. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You're literally muttering under your breath, moe. Like, what are you? Are you an alien? I don't understand. That is, like you were saying about like how like now in Dragon Pilot is like kind of like a fetish. Like this is definitely a fetish of like a girl who is like so nervous that she can barely even like exist on Earth. Like that is definitely a fetish.
All right, so I get it. You guys both really hate this show.
Well, I don't hate it. Like I said, I don't absolutely hate it. I just think it does some things really shittily.
Could have been good.
It could have been good.
It put too much bad in there. So that's basically
we both have
line.
issues with it, essentially, yeah.
Yep.
All right, we can move on, though. Cool. Leo, tell me about this wonderful food anime.
Isekai Izakaya. Jeez, I almost confused it with a different show. All right. So it's another restaurant to another world. The dishes look delicious, and the people eating it freak out every time. what this show did a little different is that they dedicated like 5 minutes at the end to actually showing you how to make some of these dishes with the ingredients that were used in the show. So, I mean, if you liked Restaurant to Another World, this is your show, but it's just almost the exact same thing. It's astounding. And that's all I can tell you about it.
That this is a better show than Restaurant to Another World, actually. Like, this is almost
it's better?
This is almost like they took it and they like made it like a short, like the original should have been, because it has a lot of fat in it, and they just made it like a little bit more interesting, in my opinion. Like,
By the way, the name of this is Isekai Izakaya, Japanese food from another world.
Oh, man.
So it's almost the same name. It's funny.
Yeah, so I appreciate that Leo watches a lot of these shorts, because I feel like without him, I would never watch these shorts. And I find so many shorts through Leo that I end up watching, and I'm like, oh, I would have never found this. So I appreciate that, Leo.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I also really enjoyed this. I also thought it was like a much better show than Restaurant to Another World through the first 2 episodes.
Yeah,
because,
if this is your kind of show, definitely watch it. You'll like it.
It's a good food show. Like, it's got like a lot of good, yummy food. There's like that kind of hilarious, ridiculous quality to some of the imagery, which is part of the fun of food shows. Like, there's one point in the first episode where like he compares the food to like Viking food, and there's just like images of Vikings like holding sticks of udon, like Odin, like, you know, with the triangles and stuff. And you're just like, what? Like, that makes no sense.
Well, it's because they're eating Oden, right? And so they hear it wrong and they think Odin? Like the Norse god?
But
which is funny.
Hilarious. Yeah, and I really like, they have really crisp crunching noises when people are eating the food, and like really good sound effects, and like the pop on screen is really good. And so it just it's satisfying, right? Like, you see them eat it and you're just like, oh, I liked that. Yeah, it's really enjoyable. Also, I kind of liked the back and forth between the characters who are coming in and out of the inn better than I liked in Restaurant to Another World, because I got kind of tired with some of those characters, and
Me too.
I like these characters more. So
yeah. And they bring back like one of the characters in the second episode too. He's a soldier, and he brings back his like commanding officer.
It's
basically.
So funny, because in the first
eat fried
episode,
chicken, drink beer.
He's telling his friend like, "Don't tell the commander about this, because I hate the commander." And then in the second one, he's like, "Oh, the commander made me bring him to this place. I hate the commander so much." And then he just like basically schools the commander throughout the second episode, and is like, "You don't know what to do, and I do." And like, it was funny.
Yeah, no, it's good. Like, and I really like those live action segments. In the second episode, it's not like showing you how to cook. It's like this guy who goes out to a fried chicken place in the Asakusa district of Tokyo and just like eats fried chicken at a restaurant and drinks beer. And he's like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah. And they point out in that like karage is something that you really go to a restaurant for. You don't make it very much at home, because it is like intensive, and like karage tastes delicious, but it smells horrendous. Like, you don't want karage marinating in your fridge. It will fucking stink up your entire kitchen. So,
yeah,
I've never had it.
Yeah. So, but
it's really delicious.
Interesting. Those little segments are really cute. I like them. So,
well, Leo, why don't you tell us about the next thing?
This show is called Wotaku ni Koi wa Muzukashi, also known as Love is Hard for Otaku. Episode 1, Narumi and Hirotaka meets again, and it leaves you hanging. So Narumi begins working at her new office job and runs into her childhood friend, Hirotaka. She freaks out for a second because she doesn't want anybody at the company to know she is an otaku, and Hirotaka is actually her good otaku friend. The two go out a couple times for drinks after work, and after Narumi complains again about her old boyfriend and how he broke up with her because he found out she was an otaku, Hirotaka suggests that they try dating, since he would be glad to help her level up and would have like no problem being her sales assistant at like next week's con or something like that. He's got some good points. Narumi also finds out that the cool beauty with big boobs that she works with, Hanako, is a famous cosplayer, and they're actually fans of each other. Not that the animation looked bad, but there was very little other than like small head movements and walking I noticed in the show. Yeah,
background art is not great either.
Yeah.
It is pretty bare bones, like visually. but the characters kind of make up for it.
The fact that they just do start dating by the first episode already puts us a way faster progression rate for the relationship ahead of most other romance anime. So obviously we know they get along, but the question is how physically attracted to each other will they eventually become. There is one little scene where Narumi does move Hirotaka's glasses and she finds him attractive. And I mean, it's pretty apparent that Hirotaka finds her pretty cute. So...
Well, they kind of are dancing around each other in the first episode. Like, I think, because they have all these moments before they decide to date where they, like, mention it to each other, but then they're like, but that would never happen. But it's kind of like a thing that girls do sometimes when they're, like, kind of interested in someone that they know.
I think it was Hirotaka that brought it up first.
I think, but then Narumi brings it up too. Yeah, and, like, they kind of dance around it and, like, you know, they're trying to feel each other out a little bit. And I do think it's realistic when you were friends with someone for a long time first and then you try dating for it to be a little awkward and like take a little while, you know what I mean, to transition. So I do think it's realistic. I really love this anime.
Bcom, what do you think? You weren't very happy with it.
I was really not loving this through the first 2 episodes because I was just like, oh, this is kind of pandering. It's like, oh, look, they're playing Monster Hunter in their office. This is pandering to like young adults who have like a Nintendo Switch and play video games or something.
Well, but there are those 2 types of otaku, right? There's a type that will bring their Nintendo Switch to work and like will play it during breaks, and then there's a type like Naomi where they're like, I don't want anyone at work to know I'm an otaku. Like, and I liked that part.
That's totally my type too. Like, I will never let anyone at work know almost anything about my personal life beyond like the most mundane things.
I'm that way too. I'm like, nope, you're never gonna know.
I will say
people just don't know that I think I watch anime, so that's just it for me. They'd probably be surprised how much I consume.
Episode 3 though, I'm not going to get into it much because we'll cover it probably at some point, but like episode 3 really turned me around on this show because like a lot more of the jokes landed for me between these 2 like main couples in the show, and like the relationship between the main 2 actually went somewhere, which I wasn't convinced was going to happen after the first and second episode. Because like in the second episode, they kind of just like don't really understand if they're going out or not. Like, and they kind of act a little bit like middle schoolers rather than adults about that.
Kat was praising a second ago.
But like it is realistic.
I don't know, but yeah, I've come around to it. It's definitely interesting at that point.
Yeah, because like in the second episode, like Narumi is like feeling really nervous about it, and they're like weird. But okay, I did find it irritating because at first I thought that they had literally just started dating like last night, and then I realized it had been a week or 2. Like, that is a little bit of a stretch. Like, you should get over it within a couple days, right?
Yeah.
But like, but I do think there is some like awkwardness that occurs when you're going from friends to dating. So like. And I also like some of the references they make where like, okay, so Hirotaka can't figure out why she's avoiding him. And so his friend Taru like encourages him to go speak to her before work starts so that they can talk this out. And then Hanako, Naomi's friend, is asking her like, why are you unhappy? Like, Hirotaka's a good guy. And Naomi admits like she really thinks Taru is her type, right? It's like Taru and Hirotaka walk up, right? And there's that like Pokemon showdown that happens. Like, you remember that? Where it's like,
yes,
so and so use like run, and then like Hirotaka blocks. Like, Naomi cannot run. Like, that was hilarious. Like, it was a good joke. And then I don't know. They talk it out. Like, Naomi runs away, and Hirotaka corners her by the elevator. Like, he kind of kavadons her a little bit, which is funny. And then they talk it out. And during that talk, like, Hirotaka kind of admits, like, well, I do like you like that. But he didn't really say that when they decided to date. So it's kind of cute. And then during that fight, they realize that Hanako and Taru are actually dating as well. Like, because I don't think before that you really knew that they were dating.
Not,
like, they
not
kind of kept it
necessarily.
under
You
wraps.
knew they were kind of attracted to each other.
Well,
yeah.
you knew that they were kind of attracted to each other, but they kept it really under wraps, like that they were actually dating.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah, you find out that they're dating by hearing them fight. And then they all decide later in that episode to go to the bar together after work. But then they decide, oh wait, let's go to a manga place first. And then they all split up into girls and boys, and they go buy like porn and yaoi and yuri, basically. Which is hilarious in its own way. And I really liked how Taru was like so much that a camouflage otaku type where he doesn't even like being in the manga shop in his work clothes because he's like, now people know I'm here like right after work and I don't like it. And I'm kind of that way too. So I'm like, yep, like that's how I feel. I really love this show. I don't know. I know you guys are not as like in love with it as I am.
I'm really liking it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I'm coming around as of episode 3, which I think was by far the best episode. It was so much fun. So yeah, I'm into it. I
think it will like cover some real issues that like a lot of people who are very nerdy have with like in the adult world dating, especially like in the nerd world. And I don't think it's a subject that's really been explored very well in other anime, like especially after the letdown of I'm blanking on the name. The like
Recovery of an MMO Junkie.
Yeah, because everyone really loved it because they thought it was going to cover some of these issues, and then it just sort of like bailed without actually going anywhere, you know?
Yeah, I agree.
So I think this might give us what we wanted in that, and like them actually have to deal with some of these issues, and it'll be interesting. Too. Yeah.
I mean, the main selling point, I mean, when I first saw this, I was like, real life functioning otaku people. I'm like, I'm so totally going to be able to relate to this.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a really good selling point for me, but yeah, that's all I got on this show. I can't wait to watch episode 3 now.
It's good. So
Bcom thought it's even better, then I'm just going to think it's freaking amazing.
Kat, let's move on to Fridays and tell us a little about an anime called Full Metal Panic: Invisible Victory. Or did you watch this? Did anybody watch this?
I did.
I did.
Okay.
I got you covered. So basically, I went into this season thinking that the Invisible Victory was going to be just like a fan service type Full Metal Panic show because the studio that does it is really known for their fan service more than anything else. And I was pleasantly surprised because it's actually like a continuation of season 2. So it's a continuation of like the serious side of the manga into anime format, basically. So they start right where they left off at the end of season 2 with like the really serious storyline and like things happening and decisions having to be made and all of this. It's really interesting. I will say, okay, so they started using a lot more CG than they ever have before. And like for the Gundam especially, and they don't blend it well with the like hand-drawn characters. It's not nearly as bad as in Golden Kamui, but like it does bug me a little bit. Like you'll see the Gundam in the background walking and you'll just be like, it doesn't look right. Like you shouldn't have used CG if you weren't going to use it right. Like, but I love Full Metal Panic so much as a franchise, and I especially love so much that they're giving us more of the serious aspect of the show, which is my favorite part of the show, that I am more than willing to forgive it. I'm definitely watching this, and I'm definitely excited to actually see it animate more of the serious part of the show. So if you really liked the serious parts of the show, then you'll love this season. If you like the jokes, I think you should still give it a try because I think there's still some jokes in it, but like maybe it won't be for you. So
is there a panty shot every 5 minutes?
No,
like the first season of Full Metal Panic.
Not at all. It's like it's
okay,
very
so that's
it's
interesting.
Mostly serious. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I still need to catch up with Second Raid, which I haven't seen, and then I will give this show a shot. But I'm glad to hear that it's like at least sticking to one thing. It hasn't gone back to like the kind of muddled mess that was season 1, where it was like, here's lots of fan service and jokes, and then here's a super serious side plot. It's like, just do one or the other.
They realized after season 1, they're like, we need to split these two aspects up and make them into different seasons.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. Yeah.
I unfortunately don't know anything about this show, so
yeah. You should try it out.
Me watch it. Yeah.
Yeah, you may like it, Leo. Especially you might like the first season and Fumofu, which is the
you would
the
like
really
Fumofu
interesting side that KyoAni did.
I think you would like Fumofu a lot, Leo. You should maybe even start with that.
Oh, yes. Put more anime on my plate, please.
Yeah, that's what you need.
God.
All right,
I'm
so
with you.
next show we've got is called Gurazeni Money Pitch.
Yeah.
So the main character of the show, his name is Natsunosuke Banda, and he is a middle relief pitcher who is obsessed with money for a Japanese baseball team. And so he basically thinks about all of like other players on the field in terms of like their contract. And he's like obsessed with saving his money because his agent or his scout who signed him told him like, don't spend a cent of your money until you like retire, basically. So he hasn't even touched the money in his like signing bonus. He's just saving.
He's a miser.
Yeah.
That word has been stuck in my head ever since Mitsubishi Colors.
Miser. Right off the bat, in the first few seconds, like the main character tells the audience that he makes 18 million yen a year. And I instantly paused because I'm a huge like Major League Baseball fan. And I had to know how much that actually was in US dollars. So I went to Google and I was like, $168,480 is what he makes. And I guess that's more normal.
That's not much for
it's good.
Sports player.
Yeah, it's not good for a baseball player. Like for Major League Baseball standards, that's just like nothing. It's lower than minimum wage. I looked it up, like the top players in like the Japan Baseball League make like 500 million yen, which is $4.68 million, which while it's still a lot of money, like the best players in Major League Baseball regularly make like $30 million a year. So it's just two completely different worlds of competition. But
I really like that because like there are a lot of middle players in professional sports, like any professional sport, right?
Yeah.
Like not like most 90% of the people who are playing professional, whatever it is, whether that's football or baseball or whatever, are not going to be the stars, right? They're going to be like the middle people. And so I kind of liked that this anime is supposed to be all about like the middle people and how they have to worry about like their place in the professional sport because they aren't the star, and like how they're going to keep their career going and like what's going to happen after their career is over, and how they never know how long their career is going to be and how they have to save for the future. And I thought it was really interesting and something we've never seen before in an anime.
Yeah, it's a really weird perspective that like maybe only like baseball fans will really truly appreciate, because like it does get into like the minutia of like being a professional baseball player. But yeah, the main character is kind of goofy. He like he's pitching, right, and like a rookie is trying to get a hit off him, so he tries to bunt, and he pops the bunt into foul territory. So Banda is like, "Oh, I can get this easy out." So he like sprints off the mound and dives and like yells out the words "Gurazeni," which literally translates to money pitch.
And there's like this like imagery of him running, and there's like money just like up from the ground as he's running. I love the imagery on that.
And it's kind of sad because like the minor leaguer who tried to bunt gets sent down to the minors the next day because after having just been called up because he couldn't get this bunt down on this relief pitcher. Like Japanese baseball, they're crazy about being able to do the fundamentals, and if you screw up, like they're very harsh about it.
Well, and it just shows
seems
like
a little
the
unrealistic
world
to
of
me, but
professional
still.
sports is very harsh, right? Like if you fuck up like one too many times, like you're out and your career is over basically. And like you see him make this decision where he's like, well, this guy, he's like a rookie and he just got pushed up and like he has 2 kids and like all this, but like it's me or him. Like one of us is gonna get like demoted and it's not gonna be me, you know?
Yeah.
So
and like production wise, this anime is not the best. It has some pretty jank looking CGI at times.
It does. I will agree with you.
Passable animation at best. Like it's a 50-50 split between like passable animation and then just some like really janky stuff.
Yeah, there's like stuff where
that
they show like all the players stretching, and it's like some jank like leg movement of them like supposedly stretching, and I'm just like, that just looks like, have you ever played The Sims and like your character like fucks up their arm or something and it like there's like a glitch? Like have you ever seen that?
Yes,
that's
definitely.
What some of that looks like to me.
That's scary to hear coming from you guys.
So Banda is also, he's like friends with the color commentator for the team, which is like a weird relationship. But the color commentator, Toku, was like a former teammate, like, which happens a lot in professional baseball. Like a former player will become a color commentator. And so like he's worried about his job because he hasn't been getting the best ratings during his broadcasts. Like these are the things this anime focuses on, which is so weird. And I liked that Banda like went out to dinner with him and they had like a fun dynamic. And then Toku gets a lucky break because his like producer is like, oh, you're going to be like, I hope the commentary is really good today. And he's lucky because Banda, who's been his best friend for like forever, is going to spot start in this game. And Toku's like, I got this. I know everything about this, man. This is going to be the easiest commenting job ever. So yeah, this show really focuses on baseball as like a business and as like a professional like endeavor rather than just like, oh, it's cool baseball stuff like a lot of baseball anime focus on.
Yeah, it's definitely a unique thing. Like the first episode of this, I was so hyped for this anime. I was like, yes, this is what we needed. Like this is a new aspect of sports. And then the second episode happened.
Yeah, the second episode was a little bit of a letdown, I would say. Like the first half, it focuses on Banda like not being able to get batters out who make more money than him. He has like this mental block about it. It's like not that interesting. Like I didn't even write many notes about that first half of the show. I found the second half of the show to be a little bit more interesting. One of Banda's best friends on the team is a starting pitcher named Shibuya, who they both came up together at the same time. And Shibuya is an ace pitcher. He's really good. He just has terrible luck. Like he talks about how like this season he has an earned run average of 1, which means he's allowed 1 earned run per 9 innings pitched, but he still hasn't won a game this season. In fact, like Banda says, in 7 years of starting pitching, he's only won 21 games. So he's won 3 games per year. Like that's terrible. But that it's basically a discussion of how like useless the win statistic is for pitchers in baseball, because essentially you have to pitch 5 complete innings of a 9-inning game, and then you can leave the game at any point with your team in the lead, and if they don't lose the lead from that point on till the end of the game, you are awarded a win. However, yes,
that makes sense, because I appreciate you explaining this, because the second half of this I started to get very confused on what was happening. And I wasn't confused at all up to that, because I feel like I have the bare basics of baseball pretty down. But then the second half of this is not at all friendly towards people who aren't like experts in baseball. And I started to not understand what was happening anymore. And that's a weakness of the show, because like you should be able to explain, you know, what's going on to your audience.
That's why I think this is like really aimed at like baseball people, to maybe to its detriment, because like guys who are like living and breathing baseball will definitely understand this, but like they didn't do a great job of explaining it, and it's kind of like a little bit of like a minutia of like a stat. And like so Shibuya leaves the game with a 2-0 lead, and he's like, I might get my first win of the season, and Banda comes in to relieve him, and he gets this tough left-handed hitter to fly out, and their team even scores another run. They go up 3-0, but then their closer comes in the 9th inning and gives up 4 runs, completely blowing the lead, and that way Shibuya can't get a win. However, his team comes back in the bottom of the 9th and they win the game, and the closer who blew the save gets awarded the win because he's the pitcher of record. Oh. So it's really unfair how wins are handed out in Major League Baseball because of that. That's why they don't mean as much these days. We have lots better statistics now, like quality starts and other statistics that will tell you how good a starting pitcher is. But so this is it's a fun show for like baseball otaku and anybody who's interested in like what being a professional baseball player is kind of like, more so than how fun baseball is to watch. I'm
still gonna keep watching it because I think it's an interesting angle of a sports anime that's never been done before, but I am disappointed in the second episode, and I think it won't be as great as I originally thought it was going to be, but it'll still be good. Well,
Leo, I want you to tell me about this anime that you really like about a naked lolly who fell out of the sky into your lap.
What? Huh? Oh, are you guys done?
Damn.
Ooh,
Damn,
totally checked
Leo.
out.
All right, we'll
Burn
just skip
us
Hinamatsuri
like
then.
that.
We'll just go on to You Don't Know Gunma.
God.
So there's this little manga I read called Hinamatsuri, and it got an anime, and it is fucking phenomenal. So just quick briefing on episode 1: Arrival of the Psychokinetic Girl. Nita is a Yakuza. Yeah, thank you.
There you go.
Nita is a Yakuza member who has a love for vases, but Hina falls into his life and makes him do things for her while basically holding the vases hostage or physically threatening him with her psychic powers. After her powers go out of control for not using them, he suddenly gets the idea to use her for the organization by clearing out some land. She at one point wants to go to school, and she sleeps like the whole time while she's there, which is pretty funny. While at the school, she meets a friend named Hitomi, who we will get more screen time later. She has a bunch of funny stuff coming up. When shit gets bad with like another faction of Yakuza, Nita is sent to take care of them just by himself, and he's just like sweating it super bad. But Hina was hiding in the back seat, and after the two have like a heart-to-heart, she goes into the building and proceeds to just throw everybody out the windows. Nita gets all the credit for taking out the organization, and they refer to him as the best soldier they have. He's kind of worried about the now expectations of himself. Man, there's just so many gags in this. What actually blew me away was I was not expecting the animation to be as good as it was. So
No, it was really good.
It's even the show's turning out to be even better than I anticipated. But you two got to tell me about it. I'm obviously sold on it. But what do you two think before we go on to the next episode?
I like some of the jokes. I think some of the jokes are hilarious. Like there were parts of it where I was just laughing my heart out. Like the part where like she comes down and she's just like sitting blank face, staring up at the sky, like in the egg, and he's just like, I'm just gonna ignore that this just happened, and he just like walks away and goes to sleep.
Yeah,
I'm just going to completely ignore this.
Yeah.
Their deadpan faces is one of the best running gags in the manga.
And then later, like in the second, I don't remember if it's the first or second episode, he like goes up to this thing on the floor and he's like, what is this? And he like touches it and it's the egg that like he got her out of earlier.
It's the very end of the first episode.
Yeah,
Yes.
he's like, oh, what is this? He touches it and then he's trapped in the egg and like he has the blank face and he's staring up at the sky and like she comes and she's like, oh, and he like just walks away and like leaves him there overnight and he pees himself because he's like in the egg overnight. And then,
he was drinking a beer just before it happened.
And so she like lets him out in the morning like he did to her, and it's just like a cloud of yellow like disgustingness.
Oh, it's so awful.
It's amazing.
I love Nita's like attitude, and I just love the dynamic between Nita and Hina so much. I love how willing he is to just spend like any amount of money to just get himself out of this situation, or like to like make her happy and keep her happy so she won't break all of his shit.
I've never seen a man so obsessed with vases in my life. This man spends so much damn money and time on his vases. I don't understand.
It's just his taste, his hobby.
I mean,
you know?
I guess it's cute though. It is cute.
Yes,
and
yes.
I enjoyed the part where like he takes her out to the empty like construction site and he's like, all right, if you can just move all these trees and make them like ready to use and everything, that'd be great. And she just does it. That was awesome.
Yeah. Can you make them look like this? Yep. Yeah. They're perfect now.
The only thing that was lacking in the first few episodes, I thought, was I wish they'd given more characterization to like the actual people, because the comedy is gold, right? But like the characterization could use some work. Like there's something there, but like I wanted more. But then like it does get a little better later, and you said it'll continue to get better, right, Leo?
It's everybody gets constantly more screen time. You learn more about them. Like in the second episode, Hitome, she inadvertently becomes a barmaid, which is hilarious, and like that keeps popping up randomly. You get to learn more about her. It's, oh my god, it's so funny. So the second episode, we finally get to meet Anzu, and after, she's just this little blonde girl. She's a psychic also, like Hitome. So not Hitome. God, Jesus, Hina, and so she's basically just running around causing trouble around the town. And whoever is moving this dock around, please stop. I keep losing my spot.
Be calm. It's all your fault.
So, anyways, she's like running around the town causing trouble. She's like stealing from convenience stores and whatnot. And just it's hilarious to watch her do it. But she's there to battle Hina, and she finally gets to after Nita realizes who this little girl is. This battle, the faces was hilarious as the two were just like fighting each other just to see who could move who first. This is just like the animation was just top notch. Then later in the episode, Nita can't figure out why the women he hits on aren't asking him around as often. He eventually finds out that there's a rumor going around that he's trying to spend more time with his daughter.
This is so good.
His reaction is hilarious, and he decides to just feed Hina mackerel out of a can for dinner every night and go out and flirt with all the women. After
he's
after
like,
about
bitch,
a
I
week,
need to get my dick wet. Like, leave me alone.
right. After about a week, Hina has had it and says she's going to go out with Nita that night. Hilariously, Nita runs from her. The whole scene's awesome. Hina eventually gets the help of her classmate Hitome, and they trail Nita, but they lose track and decide to go to the last place Hina knew he went to. This is Utako's bar, but she is out at the moment. So Hina tells her to wait here and leaves Hitome in the bar alone. This is when a drunk man comes in and hilariously gets Hitome to behind the bar and making drinks. It's awesome. Hina runs into Utako or whatever, and the both of them, like, they have this like little scene where they're like talking heart to heart, and it's funny because Utako looks away at one point and like Hina's just like floating around and shit. The two head back to the bar where Hitome is now serving multiple people and Nita is there. And her reaction is just like, I have a helper? Okay. And then they finish the episode off by everybody deciding they're going to go out to the girls' club that night. Yes, even the two kids and the bartender go. This show is just freaking amazing. What do you guys think about this episode?
So I'm seeing so many similarities between this and Dragon Maid, because like basically a little girl with special powers appears out of nowhere and comes to live with like an adult in their apartment and like upends their whole life.
And you're kind of right with like the first episodes, but when you first told me this, looking at the anime as a whole, I'm just like, no.
Yeah, I don't see that at all.
You can't look at the anime as a whole. You can only
see.
look at the manga as a whole.
Well, I know what's going to happen, so there you go.
Yeah. I mean, like, the first two episodes, like, the initial setup felt very similar to me, and I think in a good way. Like I think Dragon Maid had a great setup, and I love the dynamic that it works here, too, with this Yakuza guy and this little girl. Also, just thinking about anime, this could have gone so poorly, having an adult man live with a little girl who shows up naked to his apartment the first time, but at no point do they ever go down that road.
No,
and
they don't
really
even suggest it.
Yeah, they really don't. And I didn't see it at all.
I'm having a ton of fun with this show. It's great.
Yeah, like I didn't see the cutesiness of I didn't see the cutesiness of like Dragon Maid at all. Like
no,
I don't know. Like it's just not as it's more like action based and hilarity more than like feel good fuzzies, right?
Right.
But it's really funny. The comedy is gold. And there is a little like feel good stuff in there, just not nearly as much as Dragon Maid. I really like it too. It's good.
What do you think about Anzu? She's pretty awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome
Anzu?
too.
The blonde girl with the side ponytail.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, I haven't gotten to know her much yet through 2 episodes, but like she does like defeat like a Yakuza guy and take his jacket.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hilarious.
We'll see how it goes.
Her personality completely, it's not a spoiler, her personality completely transforms later on, and it's just fantastic. And, oh, man.
Okay.
Cool.
Oh, man. I just can't, I know what's coming, and I just can't wait for you guys to experience it.
I'll watch closely.
Well, you know what you don't know, Leo, is Gunma.
Okay.
You're right. I don't know anything about Gunma.
So yet another show that I watched, so you don't have to. Okay, so I think I remember you guys saying this show will be terrible. Like, look at who's producing it; it'll be terrible. And I was like, well, I'll give it a shot, right? Whatever. So it's pretty bad. So like what I can gather from the first few episodes is it's paid for like by the Gunma prefecture in an attempt.
Is mind-boggling to me because they make Gunma out to be this horrible place.
Well, yeah, right. So like in an attempt to like attract visitors and at the same time make fun of itself. It's almost like they're like, haha, look at us, we're so silly. Like in an attempt to like make people want to come there because it's interesting or something. Like there's parts where like I don't know if it's like the mayor or something, but like one of the people who's in the government in Gunma is like talking in live action, like at the end of the episodes. And I'm like, what in the world? And he'll be like, the place that you were seeing, the subway thing, that exists. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, what is this? I don't know. Maybe they saw Eurocamp and they were like, maybe this will work for us. Like, I don't know. It's weird as fuck. It's like it would be like if we did a show making fun of how different the South is from the rest of the U.S. and like including like the way they speak, like certain local habits, that kind of thing. It would be like that. Except like the South made it and was like, look how silly we are, come visit here, kind of thing. Like there's one part where and they do it in this weird horror way though too.
That would be really weird.
Yeah, like they do it in this weird like, oh no. Like there's one part where he's riding the subway and he like tries to get off and then it like doesn't stop like it normally does at each stop. And then there's like this horror music and it's like, that's right. In Gunma, the trains don't stop unless you push the button. And then it's like, oh.
Which is true, because like I was on a train to Gunma when I went to Japan. And like after a certain stop, like, yeah, you have to press a button to open a door. It's not like a big deal or anything, but they make it out to be this scary thing. Like the train is trapping you.
Yeah, and then it's like horror music, and then it's like, oh. Like, it's kind of ridiculous, but I don't know. It's almost so ridiculous that it's funny, but I wouldn't recommend anyone watch it because it's just pure trash, really.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Next show is called Akkun to Kanojo. So yeah, this is another short, really, really short show about a guy who just like verbally abuses the girl he likes, but for some reason she really loves him anyway. Like every time this girl approaches this guy, he's like, "Get away from me, you fugly bitch." Like that's basically all he does. And then, but she's like all really bubbly and lets it roll off her. Cause like the weird part is like when she's not in his face or not around him, like he's like totally head over heels in love with her. And I guess she probably kind of has figured that out. But for some reason, she's just willing to let him verbally abuse her constantly, like, and just say the meanest things to her. I don't really get the point of this show. Like, I guess it's supposed to be funny. I just, it doesn't really work for me. I don't know. Did either of you guys see an episode of this?
No, I did, because it sounded awful. So I totally skipped over it.
I was like,
it doesn't really work at all. I don't know what they were going for. So yeah, let's move on. Next show.
Oh God, Bcom's gonna rant.
All right,
Maho Shoujo Site.
Oh.
This show is an abomination. So, you remember Inuyashiki, how they drown a baby in like one of the early episodes of that to show you how mean the villain of the show is?
Hate shock value.
Let him do his rant. Let him have it.
So this is like they drowned 12 babies in one episode. Like that's how evil this first episode of this show is. Like, so the main girl of this show lives the most awful school life you could possibly imagine. She's bullied every single day by 3 bitches at her school. When she first arrives at school, her school shoes in her locker are like comedically filled to the brim with razor blades as a prank. And she cuts herself on these razors as she's trying to open like the locker door and take her shoes out. The girls like they put paste on her like seat in the classroom. They've like written like "die bitch die" and shit all over her desk. Like when they get out of class, they corner her in the bathroom and they like step on her neck on when she's like laying on the floor of the bathroom. They like push her face into the toilet trying to drown her, basically. Like, what? It's just fucking horrible.
The worst part was like that the teacher sees that there's paste all over her chair and everything, and he's like, "You need to sit down. Like, you need to sit down so we can start class." and she's like, but I can't, and he's like, no, you need to do it. And so she just has to sit like in the paste.
Yeah.
That's like
and she doesn't speak up
me.
at all to try to defend herself. Like she just lets this happen. Then when she goes home, her brother is like the golden boy of the family who gets really good grades and is like a prodigy or whatever. And her parents like love her brother and think everything's fine. And when they get done with dinner, he goes into her bedroom and physically assaults her. He punches her like as hard as he physically can in her stomach. And like this appears to have been going on for a long time. This is his way of letting off stress. And there's like a weird line where she tells her brother, don't punch me so hard because I won't be able to get my period. And it's just like, what? Like, why are we even going there? The one nice thing in this miserable girl's life is that she finds like this abandoned kitten in a cardboard box on the like way home from school that day, and she pets it and she's nice to it, and it's like the one good thing that happened to her ever. But one of those girl bullies oversaw her meeting this kitten, and the next day when she goes to school, she sees that the kitten had been thrown in front of a train and is dead. So because that's not enough, by the way, I skipped over a part. Like that night, like after she gets like punched by her brother, she sees like her computer monitor in her room, or her laptop like shows this website called the Magical Girl site, and it basically offers her magical powers. And then the next day when she shows up to school, there is a magical heart-shaped gun in her locker, and so she like takes it, and she doesn't know what it is, but she takes it for later. So this continues on when the three bitchy girls like corner her again at lunchtime in like a shed out on the school grounds, and they call one of their asshole guy friends to come and quote play with her. So he basically pushes her down, starts like taking his dick out. He's gonna rape the girl, like, because we haven't done enough awful things to her this episode. She finally puts up a fight and like pushes him off her and like starts running, and they chase after her. And they finally find her, and she basically uses the magical girl gun and fires it at them. And what it does is it transports this guy and this girl in front of the railroad tracks of an oncoming train, and they both die. So the magical girl gun basically gets revenge for her. And yeah, like that's basically the end of the first episode, where like, and it goes on from there in the second episode. But just like, this is one of like the most hateful things I have ever watched in my life. Like, it's entirely for shock value. Like, there's zero substance to this, and it's just ugly. And I honestly like refuse to watch any more of this show.
Okay, but like it's like, the same sort of thing as like the Pandora, like the Zodiac War anime, right? It's like a bunch of violence. And like,
yeah, but this is needless
shit.
Violence.
Well, but like
that
so
was like
that.
a tournament of fighters. Well, this is a girl, like a little girl who is defenseless for herself.
I feel like the only reason people are really upset about this is because it's a little girl. Like, because there's a lot of shows like this. I would be upset if it was a college age girl too. Like, there's a lot of
I don't know,
shows like this.
Like I admit, like I wanted like those people to die at the end of the episode. Like, I was like, I remember thinking to myself, like, if there was any way to justify like a school shooting, it would be this girl who would be justified in shooting up like all of the people who looked on while this went on.
Well,
like,
see,
seriously.
But that's like what we were talking about before. No matter what people do to you, like if you do something to them, that is still on you. You still have to, that is totally still you. It doesn't matter what, so like doesn't justify that.
I think it does. Because there is such an abandonment of morality among everyone around her who are watching this happen, like including her parents. Like, there's no one around her who is a good person at all.
You
like,
can
except
decide
for the
that
other magical girl.
That you're going to do that sort of thing, and that's fine, but you can't say it's justified.
Don't worry, Bcom. She makes friends later on in the manga.
But no, I don't.
Well,
I just
good
don't,
for her, but like, it's just I don't care
like,
to watch.
Get all serious about this stuff. Like, this is just an edge show, and I love edge shows because I loved Inuyashiki too. Like, I like this sort of thing. It's fun to watch. It's like hype. You know, I don't think that it's any worse than like the Zodiac Wars. I just think that the difference is it's a girl, and so people get all like, "Oh, the poor girl." Like, you know, I don't know. Maybe that makes me a terrible person.
No, I don't think so. Like, it's, this, like, Forever Me, this, like, hit, like, all of my buttons. So it's like, no, nope.
Yeah. Bcom, you was shocked that you hate it so much. So the moment I see it in, like, any anime or anything, I'm like, oh, Bcom's going to hate this one.
The moment I ended the first episode, I was like, Bcom will hate this. And then I was like, I love this so much. I can't wait to watch the second episode of this.
Like, if there was, like, a reason for all of this, but there's no way to justify everything they did to her in this first episode. Like, it's just too much. Like, any one of those things would have been enough.
Justify it, right? Like, sometimes it's just there because, like, it's entertaining to the audience.
Yeah, I guess so. I'm not me, but, like, other people, I guess. Yeah.
Because it's dramatic and, like, edgy. That's why.
Yeah, and at the moment, it doesn't look like it has any plot. It does get plot later on, but...
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, watch if it's... How many episodes is this going to be? Because the manga is still ongoing.
I think 12.
Yeah. So
it's not going to go anywhere.
I think at the very end of the second episode, they tell you about the like weird, I can't remember what they call it, but like the weird like upcoming event like that's going to happen. That's going to like change the world and like, ooh, it's coming. They tell you about that at the end of the second episode. So I don't know what that means for the pacing.
Yeah.
But it does seem like it's going somewhere quickly.
Yeah.
Like it does seem like they're trying to get through things at a decent clip. I don't know if they're planning on doing a second season or if this will be manga bait. But like I'm definitely going to watch it cuz like it's entertaining to me. I can't wait to see girls like kick the shit out of each other basically. Like
yeah, there's some enjoyment to be had in that element of it. Like I think once it got past the first episode it calmed down a little bit, but then I've had Leo telling me like it only gets worse and I'm like I can't imagine worse. And I don't want to watch it if it's worse. So
there's
I will
also
say
this. Okay,
it gets better for like a minute, and then it gets really bad again.
There's also this hilarious part at the end of each episode where like this very peaceful music plays and the brother comes on and like all these thought bubbles happen and he just comes on in this like very happy, peaceful voice and it's like, I'm the most wonderful person ever. I love my sister so much. I can't wait till she gets home. And then he just like becomes slightly like more psychotic as the sequence goes on. But still, like, the music in the background is, like, happy and it's weird, but hilarious.
I just wanted to talk about the ED for a second. The ED is, like, a bunch of sperm flying around.
Oh,
and then it turns into, like, a live-action interpretive dance section.
Is it supposed to be sperm, or are we just thinking it looks like that? Because I totally thought that.
I don't know what else it looks like. It's gotta be. I don't know. And then, like, the live-action, like, girls dancing, I was losing it with laughter the first time I watched that. Because it's just so weird when like put against like the episode that had occurred. But I don't know. This is a weird anime for sure.
Yeah, well, it looks like there's going to be groups of magical girls like teaming up with each other in order to like better survive, which is an interesting aspect of it. I bet there's going to be a lot of like backstabbing and like stuff like that too. I don't know. I'm excited. I'm going to be watching
All right.
this.
Well, tell me about this next show, because I didn't get the chance to watch this show by Madhouse called Wakaokami wa Shougakusei.
Okay, so it's like if they took Hanasaka Iroha and then they were like, well, but we really want this show to be aimed at 5-year-old children. Like, we don't want this to be complex and interesting. And they cut it into 12-minute segments and they like just stripped all depth and meaning away from the show. Like in order to appeal better to the young audience. And we're just like, here you go. Here's some bullshit to watch. Like,
well, that's too bad.
It's not.
Because I looked at the preview for this and I just saw this like gorgeous animation and I saw that it was being made by Madhouse. And I was a little worried that like, oh, this might focus too much on like little kids stuff. And it sounds like that's kind of the way it's gone.
Yeah. It's real. Like they have all this material that they could make it interesting because like she is orphaned and all this, but like they just don't even focus on it. Like it's very clear that it's aimed at very young children.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
It hasn't even been licensed by any streaming service, so it's like hard to watch in the first place, which is why I didn't find it yet. So
Yeah, it's not good.
Give it a chance.
Well, that's too bad. Well, nothing else needs to really be said about that then. So let's move on to Saturdays and Devil's Line. Somebody tell me about this vampire anime.
Okay, so
I can get episode 2.
Yeah, so in the first episode, she's like, there's this main girl and she's best friends with this guy and he's like really into her, right? And like he wants to be her boyfriend basically, but she only likes him as a friend. And so she's put that line up and like he's like trying not to be pushy, but at the same time like he's trying to get an angle, like how can I make this relationship develop the way I want it to, kind of. In the meantime, like she keeps seeing this creepy dude following her sometimes out of like the corner of her eye. And at the very beginning of the show, there's like this weird montage of like a vampire like killing all these people, but like it doesn't really tell you what that was about. So like the story really starts with her. And you're kind of like, ooh, this guy is like a vampire and he's gonna like attack her or something. That's what you think. But then like as the episode progresses, you kind of think like, oh, like that must not be what's going on though, because it's too obvious, right? And then like it turns out that her best friend, who is that guy who like is in love with her, is actually the vampire, and like he's been killing and raping girls like to eat them basically, because he's like trying not to hurt her because like he's in love with her, but like he needs to eat, and like the more he's in love with her, the more like strong his feelings are, and the more he like has to eat, like to control himself, right? And so like he's like, I would never hurt, and so like he's cornering her, and like it almost looks like he's about to like kiss her, but really he's like having a vampire attack and is about to like eat her. And the other guy who's been following her comes in and in between them and saves the girl and is like, no, you're gonna eat her alive, like you need to stop. And he's like, I have control, like I've been sedating myself, I would never hurt her, but like you can tell that's a lie, and that eventually he's gonna hurt her. And they fight, and she's just really
and the exact same similar situation happens in the second episode.
Yeah, so like then basically he went like the you find out he's an investigator. That's why he's been following her, because he suspected that this guy was the one killing girls, so he was like following to make sure. So he's like subdued that vampire, and the girl is like in shock because she's like, my best friend was a vampire and I didn't know, and like, you know, all this stuff. And so he carries her back to her apartment, and he's like, here you go, like you didn't know, it's understandable, a lot of people don't know. And then he realizes that she has like a cut on her like on her face or something. I can't remember where she has the cut.
It was like her lip.
Oh, okay. And he's like, you have a cut, and like he starts going nuts because apparently he's a vampire too. And I guess he gets himself under control, and that's the end of the first episode. So like,
yeah, he sedates himself in the leg.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Which you find out at the beginning of the next episode. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
the show was.
It's not like I love it, but it's not terrible for the first episode. But then
first episodes.
You watched the second episode, so what happened there, Leo?
Jesus Christ! So when Anzai loses control and kisses Taira, he stabbed himself in the leg with the sedative and regains control. But ever since then, Tiara, or however you want to say her name, has been having sexy dreams about him and wants to see him again. Well, fortunately for her, he is creeping out on her balcony, and she invites him over for some hot pot the next day. He then leaves. Yeah. He then leaves and goes and stops a vampire that he actually knows personally. And what happened was she had accidentally lost control, and she ended up killing her husband. So the next day he goes to Taira's campus to pick her up, but she's currently trying to be raped by her professor that says, I thought your silence meant consent and all you had to do was say something.
Wait, she's trying to be raped? Like, what do you mean? She's like, when it was like,
the professor,
I really want to be raped today. What are you talking about?
The professor is trying to rape her. That's what I mean. The professor is currently trying to rape her. And then he has the dumb line, like I said, I thought your silence meant consent and all you had to do was say something. And then she says something and he proceeds to continue raping her. That's when Anzai shows up and goes all vampire mode and beats the shit out of the professor. 2 weeks go by and Anzai just like lets himself into Tiara's room, and I'm just fucking done with this show.
So he just like lets himself into her room, and then she comes home, right? And is like, "What the fuck are you doing here? Like, what does she do at that point?"
And she's like sleeping in his jacket because it makes her feel comfortable. I'm like, this show is god awful. Bcom, did you watch any of this? Because you would just hate on. You would hate on.
I can only
so
hold so much hate in my heart, so I did not watch this show.
It's good you didn't.
It sounds just like some Beauty and the Beast bullshit. I feel like every season they have to like make some Beauty and the Beast show. I don't understand why. Like, you know, Manga's Bride.
Well,
all this
there's
stuff.
another Beauty and the Beast show that's airing right now called Darling in the FranXX.
Yes,
which
episode 13.
Yeah, Beast and the Prince.
Titled The Beast and the Prince.
I know.
That's actually perfect. I didn't even mean to do that.
So, whatever crazy thing is happening in the cockpit causes Hiro to see the past from both his point of view and 02's. 02 was experimented on when she was a child, and I mean the torture kind of experimentation. It was bad. They're like putting the holes in her hand and shit and just watching it heal. Mm-hmm. And it's all done at the hands of Dr. FranXX himself, which is kind of interesting. Hiro sees this and he eventually breaks 02 out, and they end up like wandering through the snow trying to avoid the staff, and they avoid him for a while. And while they do, the two bond, and Hiro like shares some candy with 02, who absolutely loves it. This is probably where 02's obsession with sweets begins, I would assume.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. At this point in time, she can't even talk. She just like moe. It's like about the best she can get out. And she ends up showing Hiro a book she has that somebody had given her a long time ago, and she just cherishes the shit out of it. Hiro ends up reading it to her, and it plays out a lot like their situation. The monster girl falls in love with a prince and does her best to become human. 02 wants to marry Hiro now, and like he like accepts or whatever. They eventually get caught, and 02 like at that point in time swears to herself that she will do the best she can to become human. This is where her obsession to becoming human came from also. Yeah. Hiro then comes back to the present and says, "You're the girl that had the book," and she just like starts crying because she's like, "You remembered," or something like that. Mm-hmm. Bcom, what do you think?
I thought this was one of the more interesting episodes of the series. We finally get the backstory of 02,
yes.
Like where she came from.
Everybody knows I love my backstory.
Gotta love that backstory. This also made the fan base completely fall in love with 02, at least a very vocal segment of the fan base. Mm-hmm. And then they completely lost their shit in the next episode.
Well, because then it
like,
makes her look
people
like
literally
a
sent
shitbag.
death threats over this next episode to the creators of this show, which is
you
insane.
You can't make 02 look like a bad guy? How dare you?
Yeah. So basically, like, Ichigo has decided like enough is enough, and like 02 was like basically on the verge of killing Hiro in that past episode in the cockpit, like choking him out when he like merged with her memories and remembered all this stuff.
Yeah, it was like a type of manifestation. I'm not really sure what they did, how all that worked.
Yeah, me neither. So Ichigo's like, I've had enough of this bullshit. Like, I'm separating Hiro and 02, which you would think is a very logical thing to do, especially because Hiro nor 02 tell Ichigo or any of the others, like, what just happened between them. There's no time to tell them, like, hey, we just had this profound, like, recollection that, like, we knew each other as little kids and, like, we're, like, two of the most important people to each other ever. They don't tell Ichigo that. Ichigo just sees that like her friend who she loves is being abused by this girl over and over again. So 02 of course wants to talk to Hiro since she's found out that like he was her darling, and Hiro wants to talk to her too, but none of the others know. And so a lot of blame has to go on Hiro for just like deciding to remain silent and not explain to Ichigo like, hey, no, it's really important that I talk to 02.
Well,
Instead, he lets Ichigo just like...
So he did try a little bit. And even if he did like try more, I don't think it would have helped. Because if you think about it, like they do think he's in an abusive relationship. And that's what you do with people in abusive relationships. Yeah. You separate them and like give them time to sort of like snap out of it, because in a abusive relationship, both the people, the abuser and the abusee, are in this like weird bubble where they're not seeing reality. Like they're not seeing the reality of the situation. And so by giving them that space, you're allowing them time to like see the reality and like come back to themselves, and then maybe they can talk about it. But for a while, they need to be separated. And like, I do agree with that. I think they do need to be separated for a bit.
Yeah. And Ichigo also has the information that she's overheard that like Hiro is like slowly turning into a Klaxosaur. And if he rides with 02 one more time, he might like no longer be human. And so like she's thinking of that too. Like a lot of people think that Ichigo is only thinking of herself in this episode, which I think is a completely unfair critique of the episode.
Yeah, it's really
But I understand
unfair.
what they're saying. Yeah.
Well, she is biased against 02, to be fair, but like there's a lot more to it. Like there's a reason why she decides to do it, other than the fact she's biased towards 02. She also does it because like 02 is doing some fucked up things to Ichigo. So
well, plain and simple, everybody's only mad because they're just shipping 02 and Hiro, and not 02. Yeah,
02 and Hiro,
yeah, Hiro. But what?
Oh, did
Ichigo.
I? Oops, I don't know why I said Ichigo. Oops, I meant Hiro.
Oh, no, that's fine. I think you were all right.
Yeah, but everybody's just mad about the shipping. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Well, so yeah, Hiro eventually sneaks out of his room, and 02 like was going to talk, like finally had convinced them to let her talk to him. Like Goro had kind of like stepped in and said, I can't see them like this anymore. Let's let them talk to each other. And like friggin' of course he leaves to go talk to her at the same time that she goes to talk to him, which is unfortunate. So when she gets to his empty room, she feels that they have tricked her, and then she like loses her shit and starts like punching them and like kicking them around the room.
Yep.
And so that worsens the situation. Yeah. And so then they decide like 02 needs to be like shipped off back to the nines. Like the commanding officers decide this. And so Ichigo sees that Hiro wants to talk to her like one last time before it's too late. And this is where she crosses the line, in my opinion. She grabs him and kisses him on the lips to like remind him that like there's something here for him. He doesn't have to go back to like this abusive girl.
Bullshit. Yeah.
And she does this for herself, of course, too, because she's in love with him and she wants to win. Like, but so like that's where, it went like that's where like the 02 Hiro shippers went nuts, and were really upset that they wrote the characters this way. But I think like we're not going to go over episode 15, but anybody who lost their shit over episode 14 is going to feel so dumb when they watch episode 15.
They're not going to ship Ichigo and Hiro. Like they're not. Like it's not going to happen.
Yeah, the show isn't going to do that either. Yeah, like, obviously.
So, like, well, yeah, that's what I mean. The show isn't going to go there. So like, it's fine. She did something inappropriate. Like, it happened. I don't know. Yeah, it's silly.
So yeah.
People
it continues to be like, man,
ships.
like there were like 4,000 comments on the Reddit thread for that episode. Like it is like the most talked about episode of anime by far this season. So God. Anyway, we can move on.
But in short, it's still a great show. We're enjoying it a lot. We're gonna keep watching it.
Yeah.
So. Yep.
All right, Kat. So you have Hoozuki no Reitetsu.
Okay, so yeah, it's very similar to the first two parts of it. I'm really liking it still. Basically, if you're new to Hoozuki no Reitetsu, it's like a very Japanese style comedy about like Japanese hell, which is like very complex and has all these like levels and like apparently someone has written down like, because I think they're getting this from historical facts of like, if you do such and such, you go to such and such hell. If you do this, you go to such and such hell. So like obviously some of it's actually coming from somewhere, which is kind of interesting if you think about it.
Yeah, it's completely based on Japanese lore, isn't it, right?
Yeah, it is. And like there's a lot of stuff in there that
for sure.
Like it's almost like a modern or joking take on like an old Japanese tale or something. There's a lot of shows like episodes in this about like that. And it's really entertaining. I will say sometimes it can be like you can lose parts of it in translation because you're not Japanese. It's a very Japanese comedy. And so for some people, it's just not going to land. you probably could jump into this at any point. Like, you don't need to know a lot about the characters. It's mostly just like week to week comedy, kind of like Osumatsu-san or something like that. I mean, it's a different like feel to it, but it's that same way where like if you jumped into Osumatsu at any point, like you wouldn't be lost, right? But I do recommend starting from the beginning, because like it's fun, and you'll know within an episode or two whether you like it. But yeah, it's basically more of the same. If you like Hoozuki no Reitetsu, you should keep watching it. I didn't see any like drop off in quality. It's still really funny. They're hitting the jokes still. It's still entertaining. So
well, it's good to hear, because I really liked the first season. I just never got back into it. Just had to watch too much other anime when it came back around. But
yeah, no, you should pick it back up. It's good.
Want to move on to the next thing?
Yeah, that's you, Bcom.
All right, so Amanchu Advance is the second season of Amanchu, which is this like Iyashikei anime about girls like scuba diving basically, and just like chilling on at their like beachside restaurant and like being waitresses and like just chilling basically. It is just a relaxing anime, and it's really nicely animated. The girls have weird designs. Like their school uniform are these like really long flowing skirts, which is really weird for anime, because it's usually like the shortest skirt they can manage.
Yeah, like the uniforms are very unique.
And then like I just love the girls' interactions with each other. Their reaction faces are some of the best things about this anime, because whenever like Pikari, the main bubbly character, like reacts to something, her eyes turn into like huge circles and her mouth turns into a triangle, and it's always just really cute and funny.
And Teko's eyes turn into like coal almost. I don't know. It's weird.
It's just really goofy, and it always makes me laugh for whatever reason. Teko is her like more like laid back friend who went on this like big arc in the first season about like finding friendship and finding like a place for herself in a new like she's moved and she's left like the city, and she's finding a place for herself in the countryside here. And like Pikari introduced her to scuba diving, and that has like opened up this whole new underwater world for her. And yeah, it just basically has been more of the same for the first few episodes, except that like they're now like very established friends, and they're adding in some new characters to the group. There's not really much else to say about it, except like if you like a relaxing Iyashikei show with some like good comedy, like this is a really good one to watch. I can't say like I could justify like reviewing this from week to week though, just because like I don't think there's necessarily enough to talk about in this show, because it is like so slowly paced, and it kind of covers the same themes like over and over again in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I do think this kind of got put on the back burner for a lot of people because of how big the season is. I had never seen the first season, and I am in the process of watching the first season because I wanted to try it out. And I was surprised at how much I liked it. Like, I was shocked. So I do recommend at least giving it a try if you at all like Iyashikei, because I think it's kind of been like underwritten this season. But yeah, like Bcom was saying, it is hard to justify like actually reviewing it, but it's a damn good show.
Yeah, agreed. All right, on to the next thing. Unless Leo had anything to say about that, but I don't think you watched it. Right?
No, I haven't seen it. I don't have anything to say about any of the rest of these shows. I haven't seen them.
Any of them? Well, anyway, we'll get to it. So
there's only a couple.
The next one is Gegege no Kitarou, which is, the latest remake of Gegege no Kitarou, is something that has been around since the 1960s. I actually thought, I only watched the first episode of this, but I thought it was really interesting. It's basically this world where like yokai have been forgotten, but like this main character girl named Mana like writes a letter to like the yokai post or something, asking them about like these weird things that have been started happening around her city. And in the midst of this, she meets this boy named Kitarou, who like goes around like fighting yokai or like helping out with yokai basically.
Well, I think he's like a yokai himself, and he's like a member of some ancient tribe.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot about him that I can tell is like very steeped in lore from like past seasons.
Mm-hmm.
Like the dad is an eyeball like on his shoulder, and like he has this weird wrap thing he wears that's like from his ancestors and protects him from things, and like it's interesting. It's very much a kiddish show, but like it's a decent show. Like it's almost like in the style of like Boruto or something.
Yeah.
I would say if you really, really like yokai shows, because this has some interesting yokai in it, like tree vampires, like then you should check it out maybe. But it's not for most people, I would say.
Yeah, and I would say like this show, as something that was written in the 60s, has done a good job of like modernizing itself with like cell phones and stuff playing, and like live streaming playing like a big like role in like how this anime plays out. It's kind of like what Lupin the Third Part 5 did, where it's like integrating like social media and cell phones into this old property to try and like give some like new life to it, and I think they're doing a good job. It's also animated pretty damn well. It actually
is animated well, and I was impressed. I thought I was going to dislike it a lot more than I did. It's definitely not for me, but it's not a bad show. It's just like it's only for a certain person. Like it's more for kids than adults, and certain types of adults will like it, like people really into yokai and stuff like that. But it's its own thing, and it's decent. It's a lot better than I thought it would be. So
yeah, basically. Another show that is its own thing and is decent is called My Hero Academia.
Wow.
One of the biggest things about this new season is they finally managed to have a good opening song in this show.
Oh my god, I play this song like 10 times a day. You have no idea. And the song isn't even out yet legally. So you have to like go on YouTube and find some like Frankenstein stitched together version of it, like you know, that's like
really
3 minutes long.
Yeah, the opening song
like,
is fantastic. It's by a band called Overworld.
Yes, it's called like Strange Future or something like that, or Odd Future. I think it's Odd Future. Yeah, and so you find like the stitched together version that isn't even the final version because it's not out yet, and you just listen to it like 10 times a day because you're like, I love it so much.
Yeah.
I'm kind of listening to it right now.
My only problem with the OP song is it doesn't really match the visuals of the OP, but like that's like a minor complaint because I'll just rock out to the song anyway. I don't care. Otherwise, okay, so the first episode of My Hero was a recap episode like they usually do, or they did in season 2. But it was also like a really fucking misogynistic recap episode in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know, like I've had problems with the way that the show handles like the girls in its cast who are supposedly heroes, but always get pushed off to the side for like the boys to do cool stuff. And like they do that even in this recap episode where they recap the series, right? At no point when they're recapping the series do they talk about a female character doing anything important ever. And then like they have this like pool battle where like the guys are gonna like race each other in the pool. And when one of the girl heroes is literally a frog, you think that they would also compete. But the girls just stand to the side and cheer on the guys. And I'm just like, come on, anime. Like, can we do better than this? Like, be more interesting with your female cast. But yeah, the second episode, they go out for like some training camp because they need to get stronger after the events of last season. And like, so they go out and then it turns into like a hot springs episode, which is kind of disappointing as well. Like just a lot of fan service in these first 2 episodes. And I think they're kind of pandering to a rabid fan base of shippers that exists for the show who are thirsty for more shots of like all of the characters like not wearing clothing. So that probably made a lot of fans happy, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for.
Well,
I will say that episode
wasn't terrible. It
wasn't terrible. Yeah. Episodes 3 and 4 were much better. I watched even episode 4. I would say 4 is by far the best episode of the series this season so far. But yeah, like it took the show a little bit of time to get like back on track for me, and it was a little fan servicey, and I was like, can we get back to like the cool stuff about this show? And they eventually did. But yeah, I'm still watching it. As is like literally everyone else in the world except for Leo. So yeah,
action shows, when you know what's going to happen, just don't come across as well. Comedy seems to do it fine because you can still find the same joke funny a second time, but I don't know. I gotta put some time between action stuff, I guess.
Kat, what do you think about the first couple episodes of this My Hero?
So the first one I did not like. The second one I didn't mind at all. I've been enjoying this series like always. I do think the series as a whole has some problems, but it's not enough for me to not enjoy it. And I expect great things from it. So for now, I'm still like excited for it, and I'm like looking to the future. I do think soon we will see my prediction anyway, we will see like the fan base fall off for this show, because it always happens where these shows get into like the third or fourth season and all of a sudden the community like turns against them and like suddenly it's not cool to like it anymore. So I think eventually that will happen to My Hero. It'll just be interesting to see when it happens.
Yeah, they haven't really lost their way yet, but they might.
Yeah,
we'll see.
But I am excited for this season, and I will continue to be, even if the fans start hating on it, because I don't like to jump on board the hate train. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about Major Second.
Okay, so I am like pleasantly surprised by this anime. I thought it was going to be very similar to the first Major, and I was like, I don't really want to see like it repeated. It's not at all. Like in the first Major, his dad is very like, he has a lot of hardships that he faces, but from the beginning he is very talented at baseball, right? And like he's very upbeat and like he's like, I'm going to do this. Whereas his son, Daigo, like, because his dad is such a famous baseball star, more is expected of him. And so like when you see him in the first episode, like he's so excited to start baseball, like he's really into it. But then when he goes and starts at like on his first team, he's just an average player. It's not that he's a bad player. He's just an average player, right? And everyone expects more of him because of his family. And so it almost like isolates him from his teammates and makes him like an outcast. And they're like, oh, he's not like a star right away. Like, look at that. He's just like us. And like they kind of like ostracize him kind of. And you see him develop this complex in the first few episodes where he's like, I hate baseball now. I don't want to hear anything about baseball. Like when he's downstairs with his family and they are all watching the baseball game while they eat and talk to each other, he is intentionally facing away from the TV, like intentionally eating as fast as he can so he can get back upstairs. He wants nothing to do with baseball because he has this complex about it, where like he loved it, but he feels like there's so much like in his like that in people's expectations of him that he can't play it. And there's a lot of like resentment and like frustration there. And then you see like in the second episode, so the person that Goro won the World Series with, like the catcher, his son is also going to the same school as him from now on. And so like immediately, you know, they like, oh, I don't like him. And like they end up playing a game together through various circumstances, even though Daigo doesn't want to play. And you see that the catcher's son from the original Major is a really good pitcher. He has a really good arm. And Daigo, who his father was the pitcher in the first series, I think they're going to make him the catcher. So it's almost like they're going to reverse the roles. Like they're going to be better at different things than their dads were.
That's cool. I like that.
And I think that's really cool. Yeah. And I think the whole idea of this anime is going to be like, you don't have to be the same as like what your parents did. Like you can be better at different things and it's okay. I think that's going to be a big thing. I really love it. I also thought in the first few episodes, there's a point where Daigo is kind of a dick sometimes in this series because he's like has a lot of feelings and he's angry, which also is kind of like the first Major, because there are points where Goro is kind of a dick, honestly. So it's not inconsistent. And a girl confesses to Daigo and is like, I know that you think that everyone just sees you through the lens of your dad, but like, I like you for you and I really care about you. And like, she does this beautiful confession and Daigo just like just trashes her down and is just like, well, fuck off. And she's like, gets angry and she's just like, how dare you give me my first love back? And it was really hilarious. So
well, that's cool.
I definitely
that sounds
think
like a really cute anime. I'm gonna have to watch this at some point.
I definitely think you should give it a try. It very pleasantly surprised me. I'm really excited for it.
All right, so we'll move on. We got 2 more shows to go. The second to last one is Sword Art Online Gun Gale, or alternative Gun Gale Online.
I've already seen a couple of good memes for this one.
Oh yeah. So this is Sword Art Online minus Kirito and any of the characters you're really familiar with. It is a total spin-off, written by the guy who wrote Kino's Journey and who is obsessed with guns. They even make a character in this show, like the guy who runs like the tournament in this game is like a crazy gun obsessed otaku. And like, so it's basically the writer making fun of himself inside of this anime, which I thought was really funny. But mainly it's about this girl, the main character, whose name is Karen Kohiruimaki, who is like this little, in game, she's this little tiny girl who wears like a pink jumpsuit and like has a pink P90 that she fights with and has a pink hat with pink rabbit ears on it, and otherwise looks exactly like Beato from Princess Principal. Same exact character design, almost to a T. The interesting thing about her is that outside of the game, she is this, like teens or 20s. I think she's in her 20s aged woman who like is really tall and is really self-conscious about being tall. So what happens in the beginning of this anime is she gets into like VR games because of her friend. And then she goes and tries out a bunch of VR MMOs in this world, but like in the Sword Art Online world, you can only like re-roll your character if you like spend a lot of money or something, or you just can't re-roll them at all. So she goes through like 20 different MMOs until she finally finds one where it makes her a little cute girl. And so that's why she settles on Gun Gale Online. It's like not that she like liked shooting guns or anything. It's just like, I'm finally cute and really small. And she really stands out in the world to like all the other characters too, who are like, man, that girl's like really small. Is she like an NPC or is she a real player? Because she's so small, she becomes really good at the game because people have like a hard time like shooting and hitting her accurately, or like even seeing her on the battlefield. Like it's funny, like she's in the desert at one point and she's wearing her pink uniform and she basically perfectly blends into the background. So when this squad of guys come up on her, like they don't even see her and she can basically just attack them at will like a ninja. She gets paired up with like this otaku guy who's super into guns and strategy in this big like battle royale event that's kind of like a PUBG match or like a Fortnite match, where she and her team are going up against like a bunch of other teams of people. Like one of the other teams is literally like this squad of like SWAT team guys from Tokyo who are playing the game to get like experience in SWAT tactics. So like they're pretty tough, right? But like they come up with
they're the best of the best.
Oh my god, the part where she like jumps out from the suitcase in the first episode, that was amazing.
Like there's this radar in the game that sweeps every few minutes, and so you can see like the team leaders of any other team. And so these SWAT guys see like, oh, we've got a ping on the radar, it's like over here, and they send in some guys and they're like, we don't see anything, sir, like there's nothing here. It's like, well, there's like a suitcase and there's like a chair, and of course like she pops out of this suitcase like a suitcase lolly with a machine gun and just takes them all out, and it's fucking hilarious.
Suitcase lolly, I love that definition.
I love the juxtaposition of her being like wanting desperately to be adorable and cute and tiny, but like also being a badass when she fights and being like super quick and just like kicking these dudes' asses. Like, because we've had a few fight scenes now and she's always like really good at fighting. It's really fun.
And she listens to this idol's like music inside the game when she's like chilling out, and it's clear that like this idol is going to have something to do with like the end game of this anime. She may even be one of the other characters we've already met, if I had to guess. Like, because there's this character named Pito Hui, right, who she meets in like one of the episodes, who becomes friends with her. It's another girl, and she's like, hey, we're two of like the only girls in this stupid MMO, like let's be friends. She wears like a skin tight jumpsuit, and like she's the one who urges Karen to like try out for this like battle royale event, and hooks her up with her crazy otaku friend who's really into like guns and strategy. And so yeah, I know they're sort of still building out the cast where I am right now, but like I enjoy Sword Art Online's premise more than I do like its characters. So I'm enjoying like exploring the world of this fun like PUBG like MMO where people just like have gun battles and have funny strategies, and like this little girl with a rabbit hat is like the best killer in the entire game. It's really
I think
funny.
this will be less like serious.
So I would, even if you hate
else.
SAO, I would recommend giving this a shot. Like honestly.
Yeah, I think this will be like a popcorn anime, like a good like not very serious, really good action entertainment anime. It's good.
Yeah, it's totally fine, which is surprising. They may still screw it up. This is Sword Art Online. You never know, but who knows?
And I mean, the main character is a lolly, so we'll see where that goes.
Yeah, they haven't done anything too crazy with her yet. Also, I really like the ending song to this anime. It's really good.
Okay.
But yeah, besides that, nothing else to say.
Cool. Bcom, could you tell me about one of your favorite games that is now an anime?
Yes, PUBG is really good. No, I'm just joking.
Oh God! No. I'll shut you out right now. Though Fortnite is way better. We start this fight right now.
No, we've had this fight a million times. Persona 5, the animation, is out this season. And before I say anything about it, I am so pumped that they are using the real music from the game in the anime because it's so friggin' good. Like, of course, they did like a different OP and a different ending, and they're both great, and they're both like by the same singer, Lin, who did much of the vocals for the video game. Otherwise, this is basically like a blow-by-blow just reenactment of the video game step by step, at least through the first couple episodes. And that's not a bad thing because the game has a really interesting story. But like, yeah, if you've played the game, you basically know what to expect here. But I also found myself, even as somebody who's played the game, like basically squeeing with joy when I see like my favorite characters starting to appear in the background, like the teacher and like the doctor, like the nurse that you meet, like, and like I'm just so excited for certain scenes to get adapted from the video game. So even if you've played Persona 5, I think there's a lot here for you to enjoy and just like re-experience in it without playing through like another like 80 hours of the game to re-experience it. The animation is fairly well done. And again, like how could you not enjoy this anime even if you just listen to it for the music? It's so good.
I will say, as someone who never played the Persona games, like parts of it are confusing. But I've heard from other people who played the game that like that's kind of the way it is in the game too. So like it's supposed to be that way.
It's a mystery that
I'm gonna hang in there for a while. I'm gonna hang in there and just make sure and see like if I can continue. But it is really well animated and it is interesting. So.
Okay. Now, I guess, we did skip over Captain Tsubasa. Did somebody want to talk about that real quick?
Because
I did watch the first episode of it.
And we're done. And I was like, wait, we didn't talk about Captain Tsubasa. So, like, it's an old, like, soccer anime that's getting a reboot. And it's not licensed here. I think just, like, randomly. Because, like, it's by Viz Media. Like, Viz Media has the license. I don't understand why they're not streaming it. It's kind of weird. Okay, so it's basically about a guy who, like, this kid who's really into soccer, and like he's kind of a badass.
Yeah, he is.
From the first few episodes, it is really entertaining. Like, there's this part in the first one where he's like, "Oh, I really want to fight this other guy who's really good at soccer, and like I'm gonna challenge him to a showdown." And he like is at the very top of this like giant mountain, and he like takes a soccer ball and he like writes like, "I challenge you" on it. And he like kicks it like all the way fucking down the mountain and like has it land in this dude's backyard basically. And the guy's like, "What the fuck?" And like looks up and it's like, "It can have come from the mountain." And it's like, "Yeah, bitch, it did." Like it's entertaining. There's a lot of really good action sequences in it. I don't like the animation, and I know they were trying to go like the way the animation is in the manga, but I don't like the faces. It like kind of weirds me out. But I personally have been wanting to watch Captain Tsubasa for a while, but I could not bring myself to watch the original because it is so terribly animated. So like I'm gonna try and stick with it and see, like, because I do love sports anime, and this is a classic sports anime.
Yeah.
Like, so I do think if you're really into sports
it's
anime,
also going to get like
check
a million
it out.
episodes apparently.
Yeah, so if you're really into sports anime, this is a classic, and they're rebooting it. Like, so you should at least check it out and try it. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right.
Man, I guess we're moving on to the votes.
Yes, finally the vote.
All right. That's all you, Kat.
Okay, so Leo, Bcom, and I are going to watch 10 shows together throughout the spring season. 4 of those shows are ones that we're going to come to a consensus on right now that we all want to watch. Then we each get 2 shows that are our personal locks. One is a soft lock, which means that at least one other person needs to have it on their top 15 anime list, because like we'll be rotating who reviews it. And I thought that was a good thing to add, because I think it's more interesting when like we have a variety of people reviewing the show other than just one person.
I wanted to have more locks so we could have more individual preference, but I also wanted it not to have like 4 reviews every episode be by like one person, you know. That's not as exciting. Yeah.
And so the other lock is like a hard lock, which means that even if our co-host didn't want to watch it, like they are now forced to watch it. It's like the evil lock, the like now you're stuck bitches kind of lock, if you really wanted to do that. We'll try to use these picks for good and not evil. I think eventually we all know it's going to be used for evil. Okay, so we may end up making mid-season cuts of certain shows, like if they end up being bad. So if we all feel we made a mistake, we might come back to our list and like pick something that we all have at like near the top or something. Or if our listeners really want us to talk about something and we're not talking about it, they can hit us up on Twitter and we'll take that into consideration. Now this season is like batshit insane for how many anime there are. Y'all know this. So like not all of them are great, but there's so many good ones that like there's going to be some that in a normal season we would probably cover, but like we're just not going to be able to because there's just too many. So like understand that right out the gate. So we made our we put a lot of effort and thought into these lists, and we made our picks basically made like based on what we enjoy personally watching the most, and then what we think everyone like in the anime community will also enjoy like hearing us talk about the most, and like what is being talked about the most in the community. So we like to do a little balance of all of those things. So
all right, do you want me just to list my top 15?
I was gonna say, like, how should we read off these lists? Should we like read off the bottom 5 and then go like one by one for each of us for our top 10, or what do you want to do? I haven't really thought about this.
I think it'd be just quickest if we each just listed our top 15
all
just
right.
real quick.
Well, go from 15 to 1 because it's more exciting that way.
So number 15 at Tiramisu, 14 how do I say this?
Caligula.
Caligula. 13 High School DxD Hero.
Opai.
12 Mahou Shoujo Ore. Number 11 Pretty Derby.
Hell
10
yeah.
Hisone to Masotan. Number 9 Doreiku the animation.
Ooh.
Number 8 Shian Pen Jiating, also known as Creature Family. Number 7 Crossing Time.
That was a surprising one for me. Why did you have Crossing Time so high? I was interested in that.
I really enjoyed both episodes.
I guess so. All right.
Interesting.
I mean, it's like a 3-minute short, but like still, like, if you really
especially
enjoyed
the first one, I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Episode 6, Darling in the FranXX. Number 5, It's Difficult to Love an Otaku. 4, Tada Never Falls in Love. 3, Golden Kamui. 2, Hinamatsuri. And that number 1, Megalo Box.
Yes.
What do you got, Bcom?
This is a solid list. All right. My picks from 15 to 1. Man, I move these around a lot, but I'm going to stick with this. Number 15, Sword Art Online, Gun Gale Online. I've been really enjoying it. Number 14, Last Period, which has been cracking me up. Number 13, and this may come as a shock to a lot of people, Horse Girl Pretty Derby. I have way down at 13 because it does have some disappointing elements for me. I'll definitely keep watching it. It's definitely going to still be fun, but yeah. Number 12, Amanchu Advance. As I said, I really love this show. Number 11, Yotsuiru Biori, which was a really fun, relaxing Iyashike cooking show. Number 10, Darling in the Franxx. Number 9, Hinamatsuri. Number 8, Lupin the Third, Part 5. Number 7, Tadakun Wakoi wo Shinai. Number 6, Persona 5, the animation, which I'm loving. Number 5, Golden Kamui. Number 4, Hisone to Masotan, or Dragon Pilot. Number 3, Legend of the Galactic Heroes, De Noyates, which I'm friggin' loving, despite like all the baggage that like has come with like watching the original OVAs. Number 2, Megalo Box. And number 1, Steins Gate Zero, which has completely sucked me back into Steins Gate in a way that I didn't think was possible. So
that shocked me that you had Steins Gate Zero like so high.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
I'm loving it. I'm so in.
Interesting. Okay,
right,
I also switched this around a lot because like I feel your pain, Bcom. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. So like mine from 15 to 1 are Maho Shoujo Sight. Oh, I know you hate that. Darling in the FranXX, Golden Kamui, Hinamatsuri, Full Metal Panic, Invisible Victory, Tokyo Ghoul, Major the Second, Steins Gate, Lupin the Third Part 5, My Hero Academia, Yotsu Biori, and then Maho Shoujo Ore, Piano no Mori, Otakoi, and then Megalo Box as number 1.
Nice. You can tell we all really liked Megalo Box a lot.
Yeah, that is amazing. That is an amazing show.
So Leo, why don't you rattle off our top 4 consensus picks?
So our top 4 consensus, starting at number 4, was Wotakoi, which is the It's Hard to Love an Otaku. Mm-hmm. Number 3 was Hinamatsuri. Yes. Number 2, Golden Kamui.
Nice.
And number 1, obviously, Megalo Box.
Obviously.
And then, yes. And then going into locks here, not even we know at the moment what everybody's soft or hard locks in.
We're all keeping our
it'll
cards
be just a surprise
close to our
to
chest.
everybody else. Yes.
So I actually rolled dice to see who would like go first with their locks for this.
And this is what you came
Yeah,
up
it was
with.
me, then
That's
Kat, then
good.
Leo, which is good for me.
I was thinking about this. I was like, this is very tactical because what if someone else will pick one of yours for you?
This is true. So the first soft lock. So remember, the soft lock has to have at least been on one other person's list. For me, obviously, this is pretty obvious because Steins Gate Zero was number 1 on my list. So that is going to be the soft lock, being also on Kat's list. So yeah, Kat, you are next up to pick a soft lock.
Oh wait, I thought Stein. Okay, yeah. So I will pick Maho Shoujo Ore as the soft lock.
Nice.
What? Oh God.
That's gonna be a fun
review
one.
That now.
I know.
I just watched both like the 3rd and 4th episodes before we started this because I didn't think I would have to review them now.
The reason I put it as a soft lock is I have some reservation. Like I love it right now. It might crash and burn. So like I want it as a soft lock so that if it does end up being terrible, like we can switch it out.
We can all decide.
Yeah, well, and I watched them because I wanted to see if the humor would start hitting better. It did a little bit, but not really landing too well for me. Mm-hmm. But my soft lock will be Darling in the FranXX.
Yay!
Oh, wow.
I'm glad you took that one for the team, Leo, because I really want to
shocking.
keep talking about this show.
Well, I originally had a different choice, but Bcom switched his picks around, and it knocked out one of mine. So I couldn't use it anymore. So I was like, well, that was my second choice. So that's what I went with.
Oh, that's too bad.
So, yeah.
All right. So then it comes down to me now for the first hard lock, which is something that we will have to watch
dun, dun,
no matter
dun,
what.
Dun, 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 dun.
So this is hard.
Music?
I have to, oh man. Because like, I feel like
really
we're going to miss out. Like there are 3 shows that I really want to, damn.
Oh no.
I have to trust one of you that like maybe we'll get at least one of these 2 other shows to review. I guess Damn. I guess I'm going to go with Hisone to Masotan.
No!
I knew you were going.
I wanted to go.
Well,
it was between that and Legend of the Galactic Heroes, but I couldn't trust any of you to pick up Dragon Pilot, so it has to be me.
What are you doing to me?
Well, I'm not doing anything to you. I'm the one who has to review it every week. Don't worry about it.
You just have to watch it, I guess, Kat.
All right,
it's
Kat.
not bad.
It's okay.
Do your worst, Kat.
All right, so as you know, I was gonna pick Piano no Mori, but we all agreed that because the fan subs are not great, that we should wait until it comes out on Netflix to review it, because we're planning a Netflix episode eventually. Mm-hmm. So I'm not picking that one, even though I really wanted to. So what I'm gonna pick instead is Yotsurio Biori.
Yay!
I think it's a really fun little like Iyashi case show, and I really love food shows, so that's what we're gonna do.
Which one?
Yotsuiro Biori.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Oh, jeez.
All right, Leo, it's all down to you.
My hard lock was actually decided almost a week ago, so this pick is not evil. So I'm
excited.
Start typing it out. So it's Doreiku, the animation.
Oh my god, yes! I thought you were either gonna pick Mahou Shoujo Site or Doreiku, and I couldn't decide which one would be more upsetting to Bcom.
I really am loving Doreiku, and this was, like I said, this was pretty much decided a week ago. It's not personally just to tag Bcom, even though I'm kind of laughing that it is. But yeah,
I will do everything in my power to convince you to drop this by mid-season.
you give it your best, bud.
Oh my goodness!
God damn!
You
could have picked Tada Never Falls in Love, which was your number 4 rank, by the way.
Yeah, but I hadn't updated my list until I saw the second episode of Doreiku.
Yeah.
And I feel like I will have a funner time discussing Doreiku, so that's why it won.
No, that's fine. Yeah, it's like it's your hard block. You can do what you want with it. So.
Yep.
All right, so that makes our top 10 shows: Megalo Box, Golden Kamui, Hinamatsuri, Wotakoi, Steins Gate Zero, Hisone to Masotan, Mahou Shoujo Ore, Yotsuiro Biori, Darling in the FranXX, and I don't even want to speak the name of that show.
Doreiku, the animation.
All right, so that's it for this podcast. We are finally done. Man, guys, that took a while.
Yeah, it did. It's a big season.
Oh, so many anime. But thank you for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on new podcasts and videos. Follow us on Twitter for the latest announcements at Nerdom and Other for updates. And beyond that, we will see you with the episode 3 and 4 reviews next week.
Yeah,
Peace.
bye.
Yep, later, everybody.